to drink. They do not have any food to eat. So much chaos. I mean, like I spent like around 8 to 9 hours in the airport. And after that, after taking the luggage, then it's very difficult for us to take back our luggage. It took 2 hours for me to take my luggage back. So in this scenario, how can this is not been informed earlier to the passenger? Why the ticket lines are open now? Still, they are. If you can see any third-party apps or directly the IndiGo flight app, you see this tickets windows are open. You can still buy the tickets. Why they are doing this? Why government or any other department is not blocking it mm, uh, to book the flights, the next flights, when they don't know that what is happening
Exactly,
when
right?
they do, yeah.
Exactly. That's what
Why
even
not?
I've
Why
been,
don't they
everyone's
close it?
wondering. Why are they being allowed to continue selling tickets when you
Yeah.
don't know when your next flight is going to leave, if it's going to leave? But Sanjeev ji, once you were there at the airport for 8 to 9 hours, and you were saying you reached the gate, and that's when you were told that
Yes.
your flight has been cancelled, then what did the airline do? Have they now at least refunded your money?
Your flight is cancelled and there is no alternative flight or there is no reschedule of a flight. I have seen people, I have spoke to a few people, their flight has been cancelled 2 days back and rescheduled today, and that flight has also got cancelled. So this is what happening. They are just playing with us like anything. I mean,
Have
what
they
can we
issued
say?
a
We
refund,
common
sir? Have they issued a refund?
Not yet, but I have received a message that they will refund. The full refund will be done within 2 to 3 days, is what they said.
Okay, very, very unfortunate. Let me bring in Mr.
Very
Harshvardhan, who's an
unfortunate,
aviation
yeah.
expert as well. Mr. Harshvardhan, I want to understand from you, sir. You have over 40 years of experience in aviation, sir. When was the last time that there was such a crisis?
Well, I don't think there was such a crisis was quite some time because the last I remember was when suddenly Indian Airlines pilots went on strike.
Yes.
So if there is a sudden there is a sudden industrial unrest, such situation can take place. But here you have to understand one thing that this particular problem was known, or rather, this issue was known almost 2 years before. 1 year before the policy was finalized of this FTTL, 6 months before the partial rollout started, and about a month before full rollout started. Now, no other carrier has been affected, when we don't find any other issue coming here. It's only Indigo. Now you have to realize that they control 65% of the market share. I cannot believe the management would be so naive that such a major policy initiative or policy effort should have been overlooked by oversight, when that is what the management of Indigo is claiming. It is a gross negligence and total mismanagement on the part of the Indigo. You have to understand that the figures that they have presented shows that there is nearly 10% shortfall in terms of their manpower, the pilot's strength, which is the indication that nearly
Yes.
200 captains and 200 co-pilots are what is needed to fulfill this criteria. Even and the way they have gone about, uh, to me, it almost looks like a deliberate effort on the part of management to somehow bring the government or the people on the knees so that
Yes.
a policy which was important for the nation and for the safety of people, safety of the pilots, which is in conformity with international practices, they wanted to be rolled back, and partially it has been rolled back because of this open blackmailing. But then the issue is that there is no accountability, even when
Yes, yes, Mr. Ashwathan, my apologies for interrupting. So I'll come to you in just a moment, but we're getting some important news. The Indigo CEO, Peter Elbers, has issued a video statement on the cancellations. Let's listen in.
Peter Elbers, the CEO of IndiGo. I want to share with you that we have experienced severe operational disruptions for the past few days. Since then, the crisis continued to aggravate, with today, December 5th, being the most severely impacted day with the number of cancellations well over 1,000, or more than half of our number of daily flights. I, on behalf of all of us at IndiGo, would like to extend our sincerest apologies for the major inconvenience this has caused to many of our customers on account of delays or cancellations. The situation is a result of various causes. Yet, for you as a customer, it's important how we as IndiGo address this. We have defined 3 lines of action. Firstly, customer communication and addressing your needs. For this, messages have been sent on social media, and just now a more detailed communication with information on refunds, cancellations, and other customer support measures was sent. Also, we've stepped up our call center capacity. Secondly, due to yesterday's situation, we had customers stranded mostly at the nation's largest airports. Our focus was for all of them to be able to travel today itself, which will be achieved. For this, we also ask customers whose flights are cancelled not to come to airports, as notifications are sent on this. Thirdly, cancellations were made for today as to align our crew and planes to be where they need to start afresh tomorrow morning. Earlier measures of the last few days regrettably have proven not to be enough. So we've decided today for a reboot of all our systems and schedules, resulting in the highest number of cancellations so far, but imperative for progressive improvements starting as from tomorrow. With these actions, we expect tomorrow to have cancellations below 1,000. The support of DGCA in providing specific FDTL implementation relief is of great help. Still, there's lots of work in progress, but going forward from here, in alignment with the Ministry of Civil Aviation and DGCA, we do expect to further improve every day. Given the size, scale, and complexity of our operation, it will take some time to return to a full normal situation, which we do anticipate between the 10th and the 15th of December. I do understand that these disruptions have caused much discomfort to our customers and has shaken their belief in IndiGo's reliability so carefully built over these past 19 years. My colleagues, all the great IndiGo teams and frontline staff have been working relentlessly to address the situation. Rest assured, we are doing everything in our control to not only restore your trust and belief, but strengthen it further over time. Thank you for your patience, understanding, and kindness during this difficult time. We shall keep you updated on.
Okay, all right. So that was the IndiGo CEO there saying that they will keep us updated, and certain measures that have been put in place now. 3 measures that they've put in place is trying to inform people well in advance of the schedules. He's also said that they've increased their call center capacity at this point in time, and they're hoping to resolve this matter further but between the 10th to the 15th of December. I'm going to come back to Mr. Harshvardhan. Mr. Harshvardhan, IndiGo had 2 years, to prepare for this. They did not prepare for it. Now the DGCA has had to roll back, a very critical part of pilot safety and passenger safety because of IndiGo's attitude towards the new regulations. What message are we really sending out? What do you make of this message that is coming from the IndiGo CEO, who's making it seem as though this was a crisis that has happened overnight, when that's not the truth?
There are many issues which I want to raise here. Firstly, they have admitted that there is only 10% shortfall in terms of the overall strength. So why there is a disruption to the extent of 50% of the flights? That is the first thing. When today they have cancelled over 1,000 flights, which the CEO has himself admitted. So this is almost 50% of the grounding of the fleet, grounding of the airlines. The second thing is the IndiGo was aware, as I was telling before we listened to the CEO statement, that IndiGo was aware a year in advance that such a policy has to be initiated. And my own assessment was 10% shortfall of the crew with the way they were behaving. So, in fact, which was confirmed by IndiGo subsequently. Now, they should have started doing the recruitment action. Now, the DGCA's current dispensation of delaying the implementation of rollout by 3 months may not mean anything, because they will have to again come back for further extension, because you haven't done any recruitment in the meanwhile. And recruiting, training pilots, even if they are licensed on the category, would take at least 8 to 18 months. If there is someone who is fully endorsed, to put him on cockpit takes almost 8 months time. It is not a 24 hours job. The third thing is that once the rollout of the policy has been put under suspension or put in abeyance, why should they take 4 or 5 days or 6 days? It should be at best 48 hours. I don't think at least the current schedule should be streamlined. Now, the point is that you have been making rightly again and again, where is the accountability? And the accountability not only is at the IndiGo level, it is also at the government level, where the DGCA is actually a kind of a department of ministry itself. They do not have much functioning authority. It is basically the ministry which runs DGCA, if you ask me honestly. The basic point is, every season you get the schedule from operator. Without an operator has to file the schedule 3 months in advance, if with DGCA, and it has to be approved by DGCA. If the schedule has to be approved by DGCA, this is the responsibility of DGCA also to check whether the slots are available, whether the adequate aircrafts are available, and whether there are enough manpower and other resources available, because DGCA is the functional arm of government which does the monitoring on behalf of the government of the National Safety Agency. So apparently it is not only IndiGo which has failed in performing its duty, though primarily it is the operator's responsibility, but as an oversight organization and the regulatory authority, DGCA has also failed to perform, and so as the ministry has failed to perform, because this particular decision is not a mere DGCA decision, the FDTL regulation. I'm sure it was discussed at the ministry at various levels, and the issue was a serious issue. So you cannot ignore the fact that IndiGo took it very casually, and as I said, this is perhaps the beginning of an end of IndiGo, because this industry is very volatile and very fragile. One day you are the king in the skies, and next day you are raised to the ground, because that is what happened with Kingfisher. That is what happened with Jet Airways. That is what happened to many other carriers. IndiGo's reputation right from the beginning was a very efficient organization, people-friendly organization, and their great impeccable reputation for on-time performance. Now, here we find that they have belied all those expectations. Today they are a market leader because of their size. Yesterday they were market leader because of their reputation. So reputation comes first. So if the people lose confidence in the airlines, eventually it will affect their future.
Absolutely.
Unless they restore it very fast, things are.
Yes, sir. Mr. Arjun, on the note, I do thank all of our guests for joining us. I have some ground reports now coming in as well. My colleague Razaullah Khan joins us from Jaipur Airport, and Rainik joins me from Kolkata Airport. Razaullah, first over to you. What's the situation like at Jaipur Airport?
बिल्कुल, देखिए जयपुर एयरपोर्ट का नज़ारा दिखाना चाहूँगा। लंबी लंबी जो लाइनें हैं वो यहाँ अलग अलग इलाकों में लगी हुई है, क्योंकि जिस तरह का नज़ारा राजधानी जयपुर के अंतर्राष्ट्रीय एयरपोर्ट पर देखने को मिल रहा है, काफ़ी ज़्यादा जो फ्लाइट है वो यहाँ पर रद्द कर दी गई है। अभी कुछ ही देर पहले हमने लोगों से बात की थी, और बात करने के बाद जांचा था कि किस तरीके से लोगों को यहाँ पर भयंकर परेशानी का जो सामना है वो करना पड़ रहा है। इंडिगो का जो टिकट काउंटर है उसके बाहर देखा जा सकता है जिस तरीके से, चाहे से महिलाओं की बात की जाए, युवाओं की बात की जाए, बच्चों की बात की जाए, बुजुर्गों की बात की जाए, वो तमाम लोग यहाँ पर मौजूद है। काफ़ी हंगामा भी जयपुर एयरपोर्ट पर किया जा रहा है। जिस तरीके से जयपुर एयरपोर्ट की बात की जाए तो यहाँ पर लगातार जो लोग हैं वो काफ़ी परेशान होते हुए नज़र आ रहे हैं। फिलहाल परेशानी की जानना चाहेंगे वैसे कहाँ जा रहे हो आप, किस तरीके से जो है ये कहाँ जा रहे थे आप, और इंडिगो की तरफ से क्या कर
यहाँ पे जॉब करता हूँ।
जॉब करते हो आप?
यहाँ से कल भी बहुत ज़्यादा फ्लाइट डिले हो रही थी, कोई भी जैसे एक भी फ्लाइट यहाँ पे रात से लड़ाइयाँ हो रही है यहाँ से तो बिल्कुल ही।
प्रशासन के कुछ अधिकारी भी कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं आप लोगों से या फिर ऐसे ही?
यहाँ पे तो टाइम शेड्यूल ही खराब हो रहा है फ्लाइट का।
फ्लाइट का टाइम शेड्यूल ही खराब हो रहा है। फिलहाल देखिए टाइम शेड्यूल भी खराब हो रहा है, उसके साथ साथ भीड़ की बात की जाए तो जयपुर एयरपोर्ट पर लगातार जो लोगों की भीड़ है वो यहाँ पर बढ़ती हुई दिखाई दे रही है, क्योंकि जिस तरीके से हमने देखा था कि कुछ लोगों के एग्जाम भी थे और एग्जाम के साथ साथ कुछ लोग शादी में शामिल होने के लिए जा रहे थे, और अभी भी आपको देखा जा सकता है किस तरीके से जो एयरपोर्ट पर है वो लगातार विरोध भी किया जा रहा है, क्योंकि जिस तरह का नज़ारा जयपुर एयरपोर्ट पर देखने को मिल रहा है अपने आप में कहा जा सकता है कि काफ़ी बड़ा मामला है। क्योंकि देखिए सामने जो कोलकाता की फ्लाइट है वो यहाँ पर रद्द बताई गई है, और इसके अलावा जो मुंबई की फ़्लाइट है वो भी कैंसिल बताई जा रही है, जो हैदराबाद की फ़्लाइट है वो भी कैंसिल बताई जा रही है। तो एक साथ तकरीबन कल से जो लगातार परेशानी है वो सभी लोगों के सामने आ रही है। जो बच्चे हैं वो काफ़ी परेशान होते हुए दिखाई दे रहे हैं। लगातार जो यहाँ पर हंगामा है वो भी जारी है। आइए यहाँ पर कुछ और लोगों से हम बात करने की कोशिश करेंगे और जानेंगे उनका दर्द, जानेंगे उनके दुख, किस तरीके से वो यहाँ पर जो है परेशानी झेल रहे हैं, क्योंकि लगातार अलग अलग इलाकों में हमने दिखाया था कि जो लोग हैं वो परीक्षा देने के लिए भी यहाँ पर पहुंचे थे। मैम कहाँ जाएंगे आप लोग?
गोवा जा रहे हैं।
मुझे जानना चाहेंगे इंडिगो की जिस तरीके से फ्लाइट लगातार रद्द हो रही है, किन परेशानियों का सामना?
अभी करवाई थी 8 बजे की थी जो कैंसिल हो गई। अब
कैसे जाओगे आप?
अब देख रहे हैं क्या होता है, वहाँ लगे हुए हैं लाइन में।
अगर खास तौर पर बात की जाए, आप एक महिला हैं, क्योंकि पुरुष भी लगातार परेशान हो रहे हैं, लगातार लड़ाई झगड़े भी हो रहे हैं, विरोध प्रदर्शन भी किया जा रहा है, खास तौर पर आप महिलाओं को किस तरह से परेशानी का सामना?
परेशानी तो है ये, जब 8 बजे का टाइम दिया है अभी यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं लाइन में, परेशानी तो हो ही रही है ना। अब लाइन में लगे, पता नहीं नंबर आएगा कि नहीं आएगा, फिर सुबह रात भी निकालनी पड़ेगी, कहाँ पे निकाले।
इसके अलावा यदि बात की जाए तो टिकट की जो दरें हैं वो भी बढ़ा दी गई है। कुछ और लोग यहाँ पर मौजूद है, आइए उनसे जानते हैं। सब कहाँ जा रहे थे आप?
मेरी भी फ्लाइट थी, बट क्या करें, अब इंतजार करना पड़ रहा है सबके साथ, तो हम भी वही वेटिंग में खड़े हैं कब से। बस
दिया जा रहा है आपको?
बस यही कह रहे कि सर आपकी फ्लाइट डिले है और आप वेट कीजिए। अब कब से वेट कर रहे हैं, हम परेशान हो रहे हैं, अब क्या कहें।
कितनी देर से वेट कर रहे हैं?
लगभग 3 आवर से तो मैं वेट कर रहा हूँ।
3 घंटे से। कोई वैकल्पिक व्यवस्था की है पर
फिलहाल तो कुछ भी नहीं।
All right, so sorry state of affairs there in Jaipur. Let me quickly go across to Renik, who joins me from Kolkata. Renik, over to you.
हाँ एकदम, देखिए सुबह से जो तस्वीर कोलकाता एयरपोर्ट में देखने को मिला था वैसा तस्वीर अभी भी देखने को मिल रहा है। बहुत सारे लोग इधर मौजूद है, जो लोग जिन लोगों का फ्लाइट कैंसिल हुआ है, बहुत सारे लोग गुस्सा भी इधर नजर आ रहा है। कहाँ जा रहे थे आप?
मैंगलोर जा रहे थे बच्चे लोग।
कब कैंसिल हुआ?
परसों 2 फ्लाइट कैंसिल थी, फिर ऐसा हुआ आज भी कैंसिल कर दिया।
अभी क्या बोल रहे हैं?
अभी कुछ नहीं, बच्चे लोग अंदर गए हुए हैं।
कितने देर से बैठे हुए हैं?
हम 2 घंटा हो गया।
2 घंटे हो चुके हैं। और भी बहुत सारे लोग हैं, मैं बात करूँगा। कहाँ जाने था?
दिल्ली जा रहे थे।
दिल्ली जा रहे थे।
उन्होंने हमारे को बुला लिया यहाँ पर, अब जाने कैंसिल होगी।
वैसे कह रहे हैं कि भी ट्रेन आपकी फ्लाइट है उड़ेगी, बोर्डिंग कराओ, लेकिन एन मौके पे आकर इन्होंने मना कर दिया कि भाई आप फ्लाइट नहीं जा रही।
को जाएगी 7 तारीख को, कहाँ जाए हम बताओ
ना। हमारे पास पैसे हैं कि भी हम नेक्स्ट टिकट कहाँ से खरीदें, कैसे खरीदें, ना होटल के लिए, ना होटल का अरेंजमेंट है, ना कुछ है। हम 3000 रुपये अभी लगा के टैक्सी से आए हैं और 3000 वापसी के देंगे, किसी होटल में लेंगे, कमरा लेंगे, वहाँ रुकेंगे, और हमारे वहाँ हरियाणा में दिल्ली में फंक्शन है अपने घर में, तो हम वो फंक्शन भी नहीं अटेंड कर पाएंगे, कैसे जाएं?
तो इसके पहले कोई नोटिफिकेशन वगैरह दिया गया?
नोटिफिकेशन नहीं है। जाएगी, हाँ आ रही है, आप बोर्डिंग के लिए तैयार रहें। अब हम टैक्सी करके आए हैं तो यहाँ कुछ भी नहीं है और ना कोई जवाब देने के लिए तैयार है।
तो फिलहाल क्या बोला जा रहा है अंदर से?
अब ये कह रहे कैंसिल कर दी 7 तारीख को। 7
तारीख तक वापिस है। 7
को जाना पड़ेगा आपको।
5-4 दिन में आएगा।
रिफंड भी नहीं दे रहे।
बताओ कैसे, अब नेक्स्ट टिकट कैसे लेंगे कहीं का? और बाकी एयर की टिकटें 18-18, 20-20 हज़ार रुपए की हैं, कहाँ से अफोर्ड करेंगे? ना हमारे पास इतने पैसे हैं।
अभी बेच रहे।
सर कहाँ जा रहे थे?
दिल्ली जी।
क्या बोला गया?
अभी बोला गया बोर्डिंग ले लो और फिर बोल दिया कैंसिल कर दो।
कितनी देर से वेट कर रहे हैं?
यहाँ पे तो 2-4 घंटे हो गए हमारे को आए हुए, कोई रास्ता नहीं दे रहे। हम इतना शब्द बोल रहे हैं, वो एक शब्द भी नहीं बोल रहे, भाई हमारा कैंसिल हो गया है, माफ़ी दे दो, ये कर दो, वो कर दो।
दिखा रहे हैं। सर कहाँ जा रहे थे?
हमारा सिस्टर जाएंगे अहमदाबाद, अभी आ रहा 8:55 में ही है गाड़ी है, तो अब तो सुन रहा है जो गाड़ी वो लोग आ रहा है होटल से, होटल तो छोड़ दिया, तो अभी आके क्या होगा अंदर में मालूम नहीं है। 8:55 तो दिखा रहा है बोर्ड में, तो इधर है प्लेट में दिखा 8:55।
देखिए बहुत सारे लोग इधर मौजूद हैं।
Keep bringing us those voices. Raman Pandey is a caller from Mumbai joining us. Mr. Pandey, what would you like to say?
Basically, that this entire thing has been an act of sabotage, because IndiGo is financed by US. There are 3 Indians in the front, but behind them there is a huge fund which has come basically from a group. I don't want to publicly name them, but they are the ones who are financing it. And when person like Trump says, I'm going to change the regime, I'm going to destroy India, it's basically they are using their muscle. There was a meeting about 10 days ago in Dubai. The people from India, the family traveled to Dubai, and there they met shareholders, 3 of them, and 2 Americans. So all of them, there's a big conspiracy on this. And the airline chief executive knew 6 months ago that this is going to happen, but it was deliberately staged, and it was a big embarrassment for Mr. Modi also, because it was at the time when the Russian delegation was here. So people should not take it lightly. The investigation should be done quickly, and the board of directors should be first put in jail, because this type of a behavior on national asset, because IndiGo is not somebody's private airline. IndiGo is a national asset. And if somebody is misusing it, then they should be put in jail and questioned. So Mr. Modi should take this action, and Air Force should be brought in to fly the passengers stranded. Within 24 hours, they can all be flown home, wherever they are, with the Air Force aircraft.
All right, Ms. Pandya, thank you so much for joining us, with that thought and perspective. Let me go across to my colleague Pankaj Chaturbedi, who joins us from Varanasi Airport. Pankaj, क्या स्थिति है वाराणसी एयरपोर्ट की?
अगर अर्जेंट है तो निकलने दी।
पंकज, आपको आवाज आ रही है? Okay, Pankaj can't hear me. I'm going back across to Renik. Renik, what more are people telling you?
हाँ एकदम, देखिए और भी जो लोग हैं उन लोगों के साथ भी बात करूंगा, क्योंकि आप देख ही सकते हैं। मैं पहले तो आपको कोलकाता एयरपोर्ट का तस्वीर दिखाऊंगा कि एकदम टर्मिनल 2 के बाहर बहुत सारे लोग वेट कर रहे हैं, लोग अंदर जा रहे हैं। फ्लाइट कैंसिल होने का खबर मिलने के बाद ही तुरंत बाहर आ रहे हैं। सर कहाँ जा रहे थे?
सर मैं इंदौर जा रहा था।
क्या बोला गया अंदर जाने के?
अंदर जाने के बाद आपकी फ्लाइट कैंसिल है ड्यू टू दे हैविंग अ शिफ्टेड रोटेशन फॉर द पायलट्स की जो रोटेशन था पहले 12 आवर्स का था, अभी क्या इन्होंने 8 आवर्स का कर दिया। और उन्होंने क्या किया कि नोटिफिकेशन 1 महीना पहले दिया था, पर सडनली उन्होंने ऐसा कर दिया कि मतलब किसी को भी इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं आई, ड्यू टू एकदम इंसिडेंट किया। तो अभी हमको खुद पता नहीं कि क्या करना चाहिए।
सर आप लोग बाहर आ रहे हैं, क्या फ्लाइट कैंसिल हो गया?
फ्लाइट सुबह से मैं आ रखा हूँ इधर, विद फैमिली हूँ। फ्लाइट कैंसिल हो रखी है, बता रहे सुबह से शाम तक बोला कर देंगे, रीशेड्यूल किया नहीं अभी तक रीशेड्यूल। और मैं अभी डिफेंस में हूँ, धक्के खा रहा हूँ सुबह से, अभी तक कोई टिकट नहीं मिल पा रही। अब कहाँ जाए पता नहीं चल रहा शाम को, ना कोई।
क्या बताया जा रहा है अंदर से?
अंदर से यही बता रहे हैं कि देखो तुम्हें क्या करते हैं। अभी वैसे मना कर दिया, फ्लाइट कैंसिल है, उसके बाद अभी बोल रहे हैं देखो क्या करते हैं, कुछ बता नहीं रहे, अभी तक कंफर्म कुछ नहीं है। और जाना भी पॉसिबल नहीं हो रहा। हमारा रिटर्न का टिकट था, उसका भी पैसा रिटर्न नहीं आ रहा है। आगे भी जर्नी थी, वो भी पैसा रिटर्न नहीं आ रहा अभी तक।
तो अभी क्या करेंगे फैमिली लेकर?
फैमिली लेके यहीं देखते हैं, रूम भी एकोमोडेशन भी अवेलेबल नहीं करवा रहे हैं, अभी यहीं घूमेंगे और क्या देखते हैं कहीं मिल जाए तो। थैंक यू।
मैडम कहाँ जा रहे थे आप लोग?
इन्हीं के साथ जा रहे हैं।
के साथ? कितने देर से वेट कर रहे हैं?
काफ़ी देर हो गई मुझको, 11 बजे से।
बच्चों को लेकर लोग इधर है। सर आप लोगों का क्या इंडिगो का फ्लाइट है?
IndiGo flight has been cancelled afternoon. So after morning 11 o'clock I came. 2 hours, 3.5 hours delay. After their boarding pass only have to should tell. But in their boarding pass they didn't tell. So after sometimes they tell cancelled IndiGo flights. All flights are cancelled. Only SpiceJet some flights are available. That's all.
Is it even communicated with you?
No, nobody, no communication. They didn't tell also.
सर कहाँ जा रहे थे आप?
We are going to Vizag.
Have you any information of the cancellation or delay?
It is too late.
Okay, all right.
We have suffered a lot.
Renik, I'll come back to you. Pankaj joins us back from Varanasi airport. Pankaj, मेरी आवाज आ रही है आपको?
जी बिल्कुल आ रही है, बताएं।
जी, पंकज क्या स्थिति है वाराणसी में?
देखिए वाराणसी की स्थिति है, आप देख सकते हैं कि यहाँ पे इंडिगो का काउंटर है और सैकड़ों की संख्या में जो यात्री है, विमान यात्री है, वो परेशान है क्योंकि कल से अगर बात करें तो कल से तमाम जो महिलाएं हैं, सीनियर सिटीजन है, बच्चे हैं, सबको जो है केवल बरगलाया जा रहा है और कोई भी व्यक्ति जो अधिकृत व्यक्ति है वो बताने को कोई तैयार नहीं है। तमाम आप देखिए ये इंडिगो काउंटर है, यहाँ पे सैकड़ों की संख्या में जो यात्री हैं वो जो हंगामा कर रहे हैं क्योंकि उनको कोई बताया नहीं जा रहा है कि कैसे आप भेजेंगे, क्योंकि लोगों ने 2-2 महीने पहले, 3-3 महीने पहले फ्लाइट बुक रखी थी, पर अभी क्या है किसी को मैसेज तक नहीं किया गया कि फ्लाइट कैंसिल हो गई है।
आने के बाद पता चल रहा है कि फ्लाइट कैंसिल हो गई है और पहले बीच में ही 2 घंटे पहले हमें आया है कि आप जो है अपना पास जो बोर्डिंग पास वो करे, बुक करें, बट यहाँ आने के बाद पता चल रहा है कि हमारी फ्लाइट कैंसिल है। हम लोग आजमगढ़ से आ रहे हैं, परेशान हैं, ठीक है, पहले इन्फॉर्म नहीं कर रहे हैं हम लोगों को, ये प्रॉब्लम हो रही है यहाँ पे हम लोगों को।
बिल्कुल, देखिए बनारस के अलावा अगर हम बात करें तो बनारस के अलावा गाजीपुर, आजमगढ़, भदोही और सुल्तानपुर से भी लोग यहाँ पे आए हैं। एक सज्जन इनसे बात करेंगे।
Captain C.S. Randhawa, President of the Federation of Indian Pilots, joins us on the broadcast, a very critical voice at this point in time. Captain Randhawa, thank you so much, sir, for taking out the time to speak to Newsx. I have to firstly understand from you, what do you make of this entire crisis? IndiGo is trying to make it seem as though this crisis has happened overnight, but that's not true. We all know that's not true. What do you make of it?
You're absolutely right that it is not true. Whatever has been happening, the chaos which has been taking place since 2nd of December, it is unimaginable. In my 50 years of my aviation career, I have never heard in the world that there is a problem like of this nature where the passengers have been stranded, they have been harassed, and the airline has come to a stage. If there was some crew shortage was there in the airline, that cannot lead to 1,200, 1,400 cancellations. I'm sorry. This is not the reason. The FDTL is not the reason. If FDTL was the total reason of cancellation, then the second phase of the FDTL CAR was implemented by the airline after it had agreed in the month of April-May to DGCA that it will implement the second phase by 1st November. So in case, secondly, they increased 6% of the scheduled of the airline from 1st November, yet there were no cancellations. And from 2nd December onwards, the cancellation started from 200, 300 flights a day. Who is answerable? They should be penalized and arrested for what they have done in IndiGo Airlines.
Randhawa, who's the they? That's the question that everyone's asking. Who's the they that needs to be penalized and arrested here?
IndiGo, the senior management.
But
IndiGo,
Captain Randhawa, how is it that 2 years were not enough for such a large airline to bring its house in order? And if in those 2 years, sir, they were not able to get enough crew, they were not able to find enough pilots.
I repeat myself, they were short of only 40, 50, 60 commanders.
Yes.
And if the crew shortage was there, when the FDTL CR was implemented on 1st November, then the flight cancellations should have started after that day.
No, my question to you, sir, then is that if you're short of 60 pilots, by the 1st of November, you've realized that, okay, we've not met our pilot requirement for the new legislation to be implemented. We don't have enough crew. Why are you taking in more reservations? Why are you just not cancelling flights on certain routes? It's as simple as that.
Yes, it's a extremely poor and mismanagement on the part of the airline. It is shameful the way it has been executed, and it has been planned. The network planning has failed, the operational planning of the crews have failed, and there has been mass chaos all around the country. The whole world is laughing. And the problem is, now also at 3 o'clock, we had a meeting with the pilot associations, with the minister and the civil aviation. This is no arm twisting. There are two airlines that can arm twist the government anytime. So are the passengers or the people of the country, are they at the mercy of these people? There has to be more airlines in the country. There has to be more accountability. There has to be answerability. You cannot let the people go out like this. I'm sorry.
But Captain Randhawa, what is it that you can share vis-a-vis the meeting, sir? What has been discussed in the meeting?
The meeting was discussed that we should also help the nation at this point of crisis, so that there is a delay in the execution of the implementation of the FDTL. So we said that after a fight of 6 years, the Delhi High Court gave a decision to implement this, and it had to be implemented in totality. All the airlines were called, and in this year, April, May, they agreed that, okay, one phase you do it on 1st July, the second phase you do it on 1st November. All airlines agreed. If that be so, why there have been no cancellations in other airlines? This is a cover-up story and total bogey by IndiGo. Total bogey.
But Captain Randhawa, I want to then understand from you, sir, if you can just tell our viewers why exactly were the flight duty time limitations even brought in the first place? What was happening in the aviation sector?
We have been since last 6 years fighting with the government to have a scientifically based FDTL, what was dictated even by the ICAO. So DGCA, after scientifically having worked out, they came out with a very good FDTL CR in the month of January last year. And the airlines were told 2-3 months before that. So what did the airlines do? Little bit of crew shortage can lead to 1,500 cancellations? No. The answer is no. There is much more to it. There is a total mess up in IndiGo Airlines. I do not believe, and I keep reiterating, I do not believe that the FDTL is the problem.
Yes, absolutely. On that note, sir, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to slip into a very quick 20-second break, and we come back with a full breakdown on the other side. Just 20 seconds.
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर, या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज़ का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा।
Welcome back. You're watching Newsx with me, Devika Devan. Viewers, there's an operational meltdown taking place at IndiGo, which is India's largest and most successful airline. It continues to send shockwaves through the civil aviation sector, and it's been driven primarily by its admitted failure to prepare for the new, more stringent pilot duty regulations adequately. The crisis has triggered mass flight cancellations and delays. It has raised serious questions about the carrier's future operational stability. But if you're wondering, like the rest of us, what really caused this overnight collapse? Well, as per the airline, the central cause of the turmoil is the full implementation of the revised flight duty time limitations, the FDTL. That's a word, that's a phrase that you'll be hearing a lot in the days to come. These are norms by the Directorate General of Civil Aviation. These rules were mandated by the Delhi High Court, and they aimed at combating a very serious problem of pilot fatigue. It's a critical safety risk. Pilots at the end of the day are human beings. This came into effect, full effect, on the 1st of November this year. The key changes that have crippled IndiGo's very complex high-frequency scheduling model are essentially three. Number one, there was an increase in weekly rest. The mandatory weekly rest period for pilots has been extended from 36 consecutive hours to 48 consecutive hours. And secondly, there was a restriction on night operations. The number of permitted night landings for a pilot have been severely restricted, dropping from 6 to only 2 per roster. Secondly, the night period has been redefined. The definition of night hours has been extended, imposing additional constraints on scheduling early morning and late night flights, a time when IndiGo relies heavily on its aircrafts to maximize utilization. If you're wondering why did these regulations even come into place, well, to keep us at par with international standards. Pilots and their associations have argued that current or past FDTL rules allowed for excessive work hours and poorly planned rosters. This led to burnout and ultimately risked the safety of the flyer. Airlines, especially the low-cost carriers, what do? They aim for high crew utilization, and this pushes pilots to the maximum permissible duty hours, but ultimately we are not in an era of self-flying planes yet. We have pilots who fly these planes, and those pilots are human and they need rest. That's the bottom line. The implementation, viewers, of these rules has now exposed a severe crew shortage at IndiGo as well. It's India's dominant carrier. It operates the largest network. Remember that. IndiGo currently operates a fleet of approximately 434 aircrafts, of which around 50 are already grounded due to separate ongoing Pratt & Whitney engine issues. The airline has the biggest pool of pilots in the country. In October, IndiGo was comfortably staffed with 2,186 captains and 1,948 flying officers. That's a total of 4,134 pilots. But the new FDTL norms required IndiGo to hire in fact hire just more number of pilots to cover the same schedule while ensuring that there was mandatory rest. IndiGo said it had only 2,357 captains in December, but data submitted by the airline to the DGCA reveals that under the new FDTL norms, the airline was expected to only have the airline had a shortage of just about 65 captains alone. That's all that there was. We've been told that it required 2,422 captains and 2,153 first officers to maintain stable operations, which indicated a deficit of just about 65 captains alone. Yes, that's the number that we're looking at. They just needed 65 captains more, and maybe this chaos wouldn't have happened. But the airline's usual crew buffer, which typically stands at around 4% for contingencies, also dropped to 0 under these new requirements. While the exact figure has not been officially stated by the airline, the massive daily cancellations and its request for a temporary waiver underscore a severe shortage of several hundred pilots. There was a clear need for several hundred additional crew members across all ranks to properly staff its network as well. In the first week of the crisis, IndiGo cancelled over 1,000 flights and saw its on-time performance plummet to as low as 8.5% at some of the major airports. The DGCA has formally stated that the disruptions have arisen from the airline's misjudgment and planning gaps. Yes, and remember that. While the cancellations and compensation costs are high in total, analysts suggest that the direct impact on the airline's overall profit remains relatively contained for now. They've estimated that the net hit on the operating profit is less than 1% of the company's recent quarterly earnings. The more enduring financial impact, however, will come from the accelerated costly recruitment and training of hundreds of new pilots, as well as the erosion of its competitive edge as a reliable carrier. IndiGo has now asked the DGCA for a temporary exemption from the certain night operations restrictions until the 10th of February 2026, by which time it has promised the regulator that stable operations will be fully restored. But if you're wondering that did all of this happen overnight, of course not. IndiGo and other domestic carriers had been aware of the proposed revisions to the flight duty time limitations rules since as early as 2024. These rules aimed at mitigating pilot fatigue were enforced in 2 phases following directives from the Delhi High Court. Phase 1 began in July of last year, and the critical phase 2, which included the most restrictive changes to night operations and weekly rest, came into effect on the 1st of November this year. IndiGo had a preparatory window of nearly 2 years to adjust its crew strength and rostering. The core reason IndiGo did not hire enough pilots and crew has been attributed by pilots associations to a prolonged and unorthodox lean manpower strategy. Yes, because IndiGo has historically maintained one of the highest aircraft and crew utilization rates globally as part of its low-cost model. This means that it ran with minimal crew surplus. The Federation of Indian Pilots and other pilot bodies have publicly alleged that despite knowing the new stricter norms were imminent, they were going to be implemented, IndiGo inexplicably adopted a hiring freeze and failed to ramp up training during the preparatory period. Instead, the airline has reportedly increased its winter flight schedule by approximately 6%, compounding the resource crunch further. What does this really tell us? That's the big question, right? Despite having a preparatory window of nearly 2 years for the 2-phased implementation of the new mandatory FDTL safety rules, IndiGo's management, viewers, prioritized a lean, cost-optimized operational model. And the DGCA has made a very clear conclusion that disruptions have arisen primarily from IndiGo's own misjudgment and planning gaps. This misjudgment is causing thousands of passengers great hardship. We've spoken to people at airports across India and they all have the same thing to say. Why aren't they being given a clear picture? Why is there no communication? What is IndiGo waiting for? There is a mad scramble to book tickets on the other airlines, which have now sent the fares skyrocketing. Delhi-Mumbai one-way economy fare this Sunday for the 7th of December on other airlines is between 21,000 to 39,000 rupees. You can fly abroad for that amount. Bengaluru to Kolkata for that day is between 20,000 to 23,000. Delhi to Chennai is about rupees 21,000 one-way economy. Udaipur to Delhi ticket for Sunday, the 7th of December, is now costing between 15,000 to 26,000 on airlines other than IndiGo. Udaipur Mumbai one-way is as high as 24,000 and rupees 35,000 on non-IndiGo airlines. The maths is very simple, right? Because IndiGo has 64% of domestic market share. Other airlines, including Air India, AI Express, SpiceJet and Akasa, account for the rest. At this point, we're all at the mercy of simple economics of demand and supply. The Director General of Civil Aviation has meanwhile withdrawn a recent rule that barred airlines from counting a pilot's scheduled leave. They've basically changed it up so that there is some temporary flexibility in pilot rostering to help stabilize operations and minimize passenger inconvenience. But IndiGo, viewers, has also released an apology that promises full refunds where applicable, hotel stays, free food and snacks, lounges for the elderly. They say that they will work hard to earn back the trust of the nation. Well, IndiGo, very sorry, but this is too little, too late. Meanwhile, the Minister of Civil Aviation has also held a meeting with officials asking everyone to get their house in order. Everyone else is quiet on the matter. There's no special session of Parliament that has been called. No one's really saying much. Overall, it's chaotic and disappointing. We can only hope IndiGo will be able to get its house in order. If you're traveling anytime soon, do check the schedule. that's better than being stranded at an airport. Let's quickly toss across to Ram Mohan Naidu, Civil Aviation Minister, who is speaking on this matter.
Yesterday, many number of people are facing issues just because of IndiGo, and today you came up with the statement. Please elaborate that, what you have come.
In fact, from December 3rd, since when the IndiGo has been facing major operational issues, and because of which there have been a lot of delays and cancellations, the Ministry of Civil Aviation has been actively on the ground engaging with all the necessary stakeholders for two things. One, for passenger care, comfort and convenience. We want to reduce all the inconvenience that the passengers are facing at the airports. And two, we want to ensure safe operations in the country also. This two priority, the ministry has been thoroughly engaging from day one. So in the initial, when we have seen lot of delays happening with the IndiGo operations, then we have engaged with them. We have told them to take all the necessary steps to ensure normalcy within the next 2 days. And yesterday we have also seen major delays happening because of that. But we changed the pattern today. We have went into the mode. We have instructed the IndiGo to cancel major operations so that the inconvenience at the airports and the congestion that is happening because of these delays is reduced. And the backlog that we have for the last 2 days, the people who have been willing to travel and we have emergency in the travel, that has to be cleared off. So today, major focus has been put on reducing the backlogs that have been happening at the airports, and people can move around. And also, we have taken notice that the senior citizens, the differently abled people who are also facing certain challenges, we have engaged with all the airport operators and the airline operators also, and we have strictly instructed them from the ministry that topmost priority needs to be given to these passengers. Children, mothers, senior citizens, differently abled people, and also the passengers at large also. When it comes to their food, when it comes to water or the additional accommodation that needs to be provided wherever necessary, we have instructed all the airport operators, all the people who are on the ground interacting with these passengers to be sympathetic, to be empathetic, to understand and to use the right communicative language, because there is a lot of frustration also because of the delays, and people have been waiting for a huge amount of time at the airports also. So we have taken cognizance of that, and we have instructed the airport operators also to be taking full efforts, to put in full efforts so that the inconvenience of the passengers at the airports come down. Today we are seeing that the situation is getting better. The backlogs that have been there for the last 2 days, they have been cleared. Delhi, major airport, Mumbai and Chennai, most of the metro airports, they have been cleared and will be cleared by the evening also. From tomorrow we are expecting normalcy to start, in the sense there won't be any congestion or there won't be any waiting at the airports. Whatever operations IndiGo can start immediately, they will start it by doing it, and observing the how the operations are ongoing. They will slowly increase all their operations. And why this situation has happened also, we need to understand that from November 1st, 2025, the DGCA has come in with the new FDTL regulations, and this has been going on for quite some time. In April only it was decided that the new regulations are going to come from November. And we are seeing that we have from the ministry, at least for the last 6 months, we have initiated a process of continuously engaging with the airlines. We are calling the airlines, we are meeting them, and we are discussing all the issues that need to be faced. And these were all which were out there in the open, and for the airlines also. And today, we have observed that the new FDTL regulations, they started in November, which was 1 month before itself. And through the last 1 month also, we have been observing, and things were pretty much not to the extent of this, but there was no issue regarding the new FDTL norms that was observed. And the second thing is that the other airlines, Air India or the Akasa or SpiceJet, they have all adjusted and they have done the necessary this thing. But here, what was unanticipated suddenly, which has boomed into this because of the mismanagement that has happened at the IndiGo regarding their crew. That is why this incident has happened, which is why, to ensure normalcy is there at the earliest, we have given certain abeyance to the FDTL norms to IndiGo. But on the other side, because we have observed this only in IndiGo, So we have established a committee which will inquire into all this so that they can establish where things went wrong and who did it wrong, and we are going to take necessary action on that also. This thing shouldn't be left unattended. We are taking strict action on this so that whoever was responsible into this needs to pay for it.
Also, sir, we are witnessing that you are conducting continuous meeting. It's
Yes.
really hard work. We know that. So, what's your pipeline? Any other planning? Which you
The
are doing?
immediate priority for us, like I said, is to bring normalcy back. Today in the country, if you are seeing, there are 5 lakh people traveling by air every day. There are very, very few countries in the world with so much big aviation network. And today we have that kind of network in the country. And there are more and more people every day preferring to travel by air. So as a minister, my immediate priority on behalf of the government is to ensure normalcy, and people who want to fly smoothly, conveniently, and the airports provide all the necessary facilities to them. So the immediate concern is to bring that back. Immediate concern is to provide all the support to the passengers at the airports, especially, like I mentioned, the senior citizens and the differently abled. That is the immediate one. But we are observing deeply into this system. We are seeing the scheduling network that is there. We are seeing the FDTL norms that are there. We are going to thoroughly look into it and ensure all the airlines follow the due diligence, because ultimately in aviation, no matter other networks, but aviation, we have to keep safety as a very important factor. We can't compromise on safety. That is the most important thing. So while we bring in new changes, while we expand our network, while we expand our fleet, the passengers shouldn't feel that inconvenience, and especially the network that is being created has to have a very smooth flowing. So both long term and short term we have. Short term is to bring the normalcy. Long term we'll do further stakeholder consultation with everyone and ensure that proper implementation of the FTL guidelines, and ensuring everyone, there is a balance between all the necessary stakeholders is established. That will be one action item for us in the future.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Welcome back. You're joining us on Newsx. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. Russian President Vladimir Putin's, of course, visit to India is our focus throughout the day. But for now, we're taking a very short break. Stay with Newsx.
को-पावर्ड बाय policybazaar.com। हर फैमिली होगी इंश्योर्ड।
25 लाख का हॉस्पिटल बिल है, इतने पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे?
पैसों की चिंता आप मत कीजिए पापा।
मैम, सर का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस क्लेम अप्रूव हो गया है।
आप?
पॉलिसी बाजार।
पॉलिसी बाजार पर 0 GST के साथ अब 1 करोड़ का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 550 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर, या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज़ का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके
Welcome back. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on Newsx. Russian President Vladimir Putin's today visit to India has resulted in the signing of several important agreements and memorandums, further strengthening the long-standing ties between the two countries. The visit has highlighted key areas of cooperation, including migration, health, maritime affairs, trade, as well as academic exchange. It has set the stage for a deeper, multifaceted partnership between India and Russia in the years ahead. Before we go to our guests, let's quickly give you an understanding on the agreements that have been signed between the two countries during this visit by Vladimir Putin to India. So let's take you through, of course, those key MOUs which have been announced after the summit and signed between the two countries. So the key outcomes of the bilateral meeting today between Modi and Putin. One, a key MOU, of course, on immigration and mobility, an agreement on temporary labor activity and cooperation in combating irregular migration has been agreed upon between both sides. Then one on health and food safety. Cooperation in healthcare, medical education and science has been agreed upon. An agreement has been signed between the Indian and Russian ministries in the field of food safety today. Also, an agreement on maritime cooperation. So, an MOU, of course, signed between the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways of India and the Maritime Board of Russia. The MOU is on the training of specialists for ships which are going to be operating in polar waters. Also, a key agreement signed on the issue of fertilizers, an MOU between the Uralchem and Rashtriya Chemicals and Fertilizers Limited, National Fertilizers Limited, Indian Potash Limited as well has been inked. Let's take you through the next big outcome on customs and commerce. So, of course, key cooperation will now take place in exchange of pre-arrival information in respect of goods as well as vehicles. A bilateral agreement between Ministry of Communications, India and JSC Russian Post has been signed between India and Russia. In fact, also academic collaboration. So, MOU on scientific and academic collaboration has been signed between Defence Institute of Advanced Technology, Pune, and the National Tomsk University, Tomsk as well. Meanwhile, also in the domain of academic collaboration, an agreement has also been signed on cooperation between University of Mumbai and Lomonosov Moscow State University and Joint Stock Company Management Company, Russia as well. Meanwhile, a media collaboration also announced now today between the two countries, an MOU signed between Prasar Bharati and Gazprom Media Holding, the National Media Group, Big Asia Media Group and TV Bricks. Addendum to MOU between Prasar Bharati and TV Novosti, of course, inked as well. Meanwhile, in fact, in other announcements that have also been made, Russia has to join the International Big Cat Alliance, that is the IBCA. Also, 30-day tourist visa for Russian nationals has been announced as well by the government of India. Group tourist visa also for Russian nationals has been agreed upon as well. So, several key agreements, several key MOUs inked between the two countries. This signing, of course, followed the summit and preceded the joint media statement. Let's discuss with our guests on the significance of all of this. Adit Kothari, foreign affairs expert, is joining us live. Adit, how important are these agreements that have been agreed to between both sides?
Really important because I think somewhere or the other it shows, it demonstrates to the world, especially the Western hawks who've been watching it with very, very close look, that the multipolar world is a reality and it's a wake-up call, and India's autonomy is still fueling growth despite what the West may think or the Western sanctions may think. There are ways that countries like Russia, which have been sanctioned, have been able to navigate despite everything that the West has tried to stop them with. So you throw everything, but yet, Modi and Putin have come out hugging each other, which almost seems like a slap on Trump at this point. I mean, that's from a purely Western perspective. But inherently, from an Indian prism of things, I think it does send out a message that we have backed you up, Russia. Now it's your turn. As a consequence, we can see that the S-400 delivery timelines have been expedited. So all of the sort of structural delays, the logistical delays on the S-400s, that's been eased out. BrahMos will now be co-manufactured, so that from a technology transfer perspective, that is great. And as a consequence, the Made in India does get a push. India will now be starting to export these to various CIS countries. People-to-people ties, I think Uday, you did mention the 30-day visa that the Russian tourists will now get access to in India. But I think more importantly, it's the tourist and the student visas which now opens up domain into Russia from an Indian student perspective. So a lot of medical science students will now be looking at Russia as one of those preferred countries where Indian STEM students can now basically go into. So all in all, I think massively beneficial from that perspective. Does show to the world that multipolarity is a reality, and I think it's somewhere or the other, reinforces India's G20 position of playing that global peacemaker, with Narendra Modi coming out clearly and saying that that he's on the side of the peace and not neutral.
Absolutely. Major General P.K. Sehgal, in fact, is also live with us now, a defense expert. Major General Sehgal, a host of key agreements, of course, inked. Nothing specific, no announcement pertaining, of course, to the defense sector in terms of a defense deal for the purchase of anything, but closer defense ties, security ties has been agreed upon. That's what sources tell us. Are you disappointed at no big defense announcement as such, or is this on expected lines, Major General Sehgal?
I'm not disappointed at all. I'm very certain that everything that India wants, Russia would give it to this. In fact, before Putin arrived, he had made it well known that India will be given similar treatment as they've been giving to China. And as far as they're concerned, there will be no holds barred. They've maintained a strategic sort of ambiguity on what exactly is being signed as far as the defense deal is concerned. But I wish to indicate that this visit has gone off exceedingly well for both the countries, both India and America and Russia, and everything of essence has been agreed to. This notwithstanding, we've got outstanding relations over the last 15 to 20 years on multiple dimensional with America as well as Europe. And under no circumstances, our foreign policy must ensure that we balance the relationship with Russia and America and Europe in a very subtle manner, so that this relationship with America and Europe does not undergo any change. If you remember last meeting that took place between Xi and Putin agreed to be a junior partner to China. In case China agrees to spend $25 billion to build a pipeline from Siberia, oil and gas pipelines from Siberia to mainland China. This notwithstanding, Russia is in the long run scared and not quite happy with China. They know that China poses a potential threat to them, and a stronger India is actually in Russia's interest. And to that extent, they will actually offer everything to India as far as defense is concerned, because a stronger India is something that will be of consequence to Russia in the longer run. And they know that India is the most reliable country and the most reliable friend. China has categorically stated that by 2049, they would like to occupy Vladivostok, which is the only warm water port of Russia. And they said that in the good old days, centuries back, this port was always part of China. China has a population of almost about 50 million people, whereas Russia has got a population of only about 130 to 140. Large encroachments have already taken place in Siberia and several other areas from the Russian side. The Russians know this, but yet, because of these American sanctions, the European sanctions, which have run into thousands, they've been forced to take assistance from China at this point of time. But that notwithstanding, they are not comfortable, and they want to reduce their overwhelming dependence on China, which is in our interest. Hence, as far as my perception concerns, everything that India wants, whether it is the Su-57 or the S-500 or the speeding up of the S-400 or spare parts, etc., or the Akula nuclear submarine, or even strengthening India's artificial intelligence, combat drones, hypersonic missiles, everything of essence, they are willing to give it to India. The decision has to be from the Indians' point of view. The entire deal, in case everything goes through, turns out to about $20 billion. If America and Europe want India to cut down its defense dependency on Russia, presently we are dependent for almost about 36%. If we now sign a deal worth about $20 billion, it will meet a dependency on Russia would increase by an order of magnitude. This would be something that the Western world, particularly America, would not like. Under these circumstances, best that we maintain a certain amount of ambiguity on this, go slow, but definitely seek every assistance from Russia to strengthen India by an order of magnitude. Back to you.
Okay, let me in fact take that to you as well, Madhav Nalapath, editorial director of Sunday Guardian, on, of course, these agreements signed. Which stand out according to you? What do you believe is the biggest takeaway of this summit in New Delhi today? Professor Nalapath.
Look, the biggest takeaway is the fact that right from the 1950s, Russia has remained a friend of India. May I remind, Putin was frankly, he was born very much the Soviet era, and he remembers a period when Beijing and Washington were working very closely with each other against Moscow. That period he remembers very well. And let me say that so far as Russia is concerned, India and China are not the best of friends. But President Putin has made it very clear, including during the agreement signed during this visit, and the warmth that he showed and was reciprocated to by Prime Minister Modi. So I think it's fair to say that Russia is also striking out on its own. And Russia would like to be very clear that irrespective of the relationship of some of its other friends with India, it's their own relationship is very, very close. I think that's very similar to Indian foreign policy. And this maritime cooperation, let's not downsize it. It's very important. Where the corridor can be a means also of India becoming part of the small group of countries that are exploring the Arctic. And that's a very, very important future zone for minerals and so many other things. Russia is really ahead in exploring the Arctic, and as a good friend, India will also be there, and the Russians will be able to help. So I would say now the fact that we are very shortly going to use the reciprocal facilities available in each other's country will mean that India will have access even to the Arctic Russian posts, which is a very, very important factor. So all in all, I would like to say that President Putin has signaled that he is not concerned about the reaction of third countries. He remains committed to the policy from the 1950s of a very close relationship with India. As you said, building a strong India. And the fact of the matter is, as far as we are concerned, we have made it very, very clear that no matter what the feelings of certain other countries are about Russia, we continue to be a friend of Russia. Yes, we support peace. At the same time, we remain a friend of Russia. So I think that essential position is very, very important. And to me, the biggest takeaway is the fact that this was clearly demonstrated during the Putin-Modi visit. I mean, Modi went up to the aircraft to welcome his old friend Putin, whom he has known for 25 years, and there was an equally warm, what do I say, equally warm reciprocation of feeling from the Russian Prime Minister. So I would like to say the biggest takeaway from me is the fact that this time-tested relationship, tested or not, India and Russia are not friends of convenience. They are friends by conviction. And that is the important point. It's certain countries, I'm not going to name them, but a country, for example, that is very close to Russia is a friend of convenience. When it's inconvenient, it drops them. And I'm sorry to say, the United States has also shown the same way, the same characteristic throughout the decades-long India-US relationship. Where it is convenient, they back us. Where it's inconvenient, they do not back us. Even to the astonishing extent of basically hosting a dinner for the mastermind of the Pahalgam terror attack. I mean, that is one of the most, inexplicable gestures that can ever be shown by a US president, especially to the world's largest democracy, and a country that's been a friend of the US for so many decades.
Yes. Okay. Stay with us. More breaking news, in fact, coming in now. A joint statement has been issued by India and Russia following the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit. India and Russia have reaffirmed their long-standing special and privileged strategic partnership. Both sides have reviewed progress across political, defense, energy, economic, nuclear, space and cultural cooperation and agreed to further expand ties. The leaders have highlighted efforts to boost balanced bilateral trade, including work on a free trade agreement with the Eurasian Economic Union and plans to raise trade to $100 billion by 2030. They welcomed cooperation in energy, transport corridors such as INSTC and the Chennai-Vladivostok route and joint projects in the Russian Far East and Arctic. Both countries have agreed to deepen collaboration in science, technology, critical minerals, education, culture and tourism. They also reiterated strong coordination at the UN G20, BRICS and SCO, supported UNSC reform and stressed zero tolerance for terrorism. Regional issues including Afghanistan, West Asia and climate change were also discussed with a commitment to continued cooperation. So a joint statement has now been issued by both sides. Dr. Suvro Kamal Datta, international affairs expert, let me quickly rope you in here on this joint statement. Dr. Datta, your first reaction, the first penned detailed joint statement being issued by both sides.
Yes, I was going through the joint statement in the evening, and the statement itself is very significant. There are a couple of important contours and couple of important points. Before saying that or before elaborating on that, let me come to the overall perspective about the visit of the Honorable President of Russia to India. Yesterday itself, the card diplomacy of Vladimir Putin as well as the Honorable Prime Minister of Bharat, that had created a lot of flutter and jitter in Washington as well as in United States of America. And I'm sure there must have been a lot of heartbeats as well as goosebumps in Europe also in relation to that. Having said that, now prior to the visit of the Honorable President of Russia, the ratification of the Relos agreement by the Russian Duma, everything was explicitly mentioned in the Relos agreement itself in relation to our business ties, in relation to our economic cooperation, in relation to our strategic ties, as well as our defense and our strategic cooperation, not only at the bilateral level, but also at the global level. It is in that direction only this joint statement has come, and I am very happy about the areas where there is a specific and a very deep focus in relation to this. Let me touch upon on three aspects first. First is in relation to the people-to-people contact in the field of education, tourism, as well as culture. Emphasis has been given a lot in relation to, e-visa of 30 days for Russian tourists on arrival here in India for free of cost, and vice versa, going to Moscow. We have more students between both the countries in the field of pharmaceuticals, medicine, then agriculture, and also in the field of engineering, aerospace, aeronautics, and business management. These are very significant areas. Several agreements have been signed between prestigious Indian universities as well as Russian institutions and universities. Third is in relation to the naval bases and also the air bases. And this is also explicitly mentioned in the Relos agreement, which has been ratified by Duma or by the Russian parliament, which means that the Russian air bases as well as the Russian naval bases, India would be having the, unhindered opportunity to utilize those and to, fly its aircrafts in the air and to, go down to those air bases for several kind of joint exercises, and also utilization of the naval bases by the Indian Navy, and the utilization of the Indian ocean waters and Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal waters by the Russian Navy. So that is very, very strategic. It's very important and it's very symbolic.
Okay.
Fourth is in relation to the business agreements which have been signed. There is a huge enhancement in relation to unhindered supply of urea by Russia to India for India's agricultural needs, and the assurance given by His Excellency Vladimir Putin that power and for fuel, Russia would do whatever necessary for helping the booming Indian
Okay,
economy.
let me get in Andrea Lucidi as well at this point, war reporter who's live with us from Lugansk. How has this visit been perceived in Russia and internationally, Andrea? This much awaited visit by Vladimir Putin to India.
Well, there are a lot of attention for the visiting of Vladimir Putin in India now. All the main media in Russia, the first channel, all state and private channels in the television, the online media, the newspapers and magazines are speaking about this visit and the importance that this visit is for the Russian-India relationship and the economical sector of both sides. There are a lot of attention also for the partnership and agreement that Vladimir Putin and the Premier Modi are subscribing in and are signing in this time, especially about the Arctic and space cooperation. Arctic and space are two main sectors, very important for the BRICS and for the de-dollarization process for the economical exchange between Russia and India. The attention is very high, and all comments, all journalists that are speaking about it are very, for them it's very important to say that the relationship between Russia and India are important for all BRICS organization and for a new perspective for the entire world.
Absolutely. Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, let me in fact also draw you in now, a former diplomat who's live with us. Ambassador Kapoor, on the significant outcomes, of course, and areas that we've agreed to cooperate on, in particular, of course, this logistics sector, that corridor that has been spoken about, Chennai, Vladivostok, also, of course, the fact that people-to-people ties have been emphasized on, a big fill-up to trade as well being given with this Vision 2030 resolve. Ambassador Kapoor, what stood out for you?
Well, I think it's a very, very, quantum shift in our relations. Earlier, the India-US relationship had been moving ahead at a very fast pace, and it was on the verge of becoming the defining partnership of the 21st century. Then that relationship got disrupted very significantly, very substantively. And suddenly we were set back in that relationship, many years in many ways. Now, India has been a steadfast partner with Russia for many decades, 7, 8 decades. And they have stood by us, we have stood by them. And all through the war with Ukraine, Russia-Ukraine war, India has adopted a stance which is now similar to what the US is also saying. And ultimately, Europe will also have to accept that stance, which India had been saying right from the beginning. So the war has to come to an end. And the earlier it comes to an end, the better it is, because it is setting back the relevance of Europe and the importance of Europe even further, diminishing it even further. So diplomatically, I think it has been a very great plus for both the countries who have, don't want to repeat all that has been said by the other panelists, but I think it's a very futuristic view in the sense that both the countries are launching off on a phase with very substantive decisions which have been taken in so many areas, and it is going to elevate the India-Russia relationship to a new platform, new sort of level altogether, which is going to impact other countries also very, very significantly. So for the US, I think it is about time to realize that if they don't sort of now jump onto the bandwagon, earlier the US was such an important country that the other countries had to jump onto the bandwagon, keep pace with whatever they were doing. Now they have set themselves back so much that they have to jump onto the bandwagon and make sure that they are keeping pace with the developments in the rest of the world, because they have problems with Europe, they have problems with Canada, they have problems with Mexico, they have problems with India, they have problems with China. Whichever country you look at, it has significant problems. There are very few countries in the world today, because once I analyze it from the Washington DC point of view, quite surprised at the way the relations have sunk with so many countries with the US. So if they do not sort of come up to speed very quickly, they will feel that they have been left out of the race. And while they claim that they have settled a lot of wars, but that claim is also dubious in many instances, particularly in the case of the India-Pakistan war. So they have to get beyond that. They have to go beyond that. They have to go above that. They have to realize what a superpower they were, and the possibility of losing that status is very high currently. So if they don't mend their ways immediately, because by November 2026, the midterm elections will take place where the entire House of Representatives will come up for a vote. 1/3 of the Senate will come up for a vote. And if the Republicans lose in that, like loss in this current round of elections, seats of mayors, governors, including New York, as we saw North Carolina. So if that happens, if that is repeated in November 2026, it will be a lame duck, presidency. It will be a Republican Party hardly in charge. Impeachment proceedings will start immediately. So for them then to recover the lost ground will become very difficult. And Russia and India are going to surge ahead anyway. And Russia has put its point very clearly about ending the Ukraine war. Now, whether that is correct or not correct.
Now, we also saw, of course, a very crucial business forum being addressed by both leaders as well in the day today, Madhav Nalapat, in New Delhi. A big focus, of course, also on economic ties, on, how to bridge the trade deficit, Vision 2030 resolved between both countries as well. As far as the business and economic aspect of this visit is concerned, how pleased are you with the statements made by Vladimir Putin, of course, in New Delhi, the pledges as well, and the focus that Prime Minister Modi has also laid out on where the two countries can collaborate and cooperate?
Look, the fact of the matter is, Russia is half of Asia, half of Europe. You can't talk about access to resources without access to Russian resources. And for some reason, some countries in the European Union, France, Germany, Britain, to take three examples, Poland, they have gotten the perception that Russia is the enemy, forgetting the fact that the real problem is they're going to face is with China. Now, the fact of the matter is, when Russia, the Soviet Union was the enemy, the Chinese were on the side of the US. And today, frankly, I mean, if the Russians become neutral, let us say, in this situation vis-a-vis China, India, and I'm quite certain in the US as well, well, I think that's a great plus. So I'd like to say, very frankly, the rare earths, for example, rare earths is crucial in the manufacture of weaponry, missiles, aircraft, almost any high technology, you need rare earths. And the Chinese have so far got a stranglehold on that, largely because of the penny pinching by the other countries, because China mined it in a very cheap way by basically deliberately lowering the price. As I've said for many, many years, in China, the costs are set to meet the acceptable price to a foreign buyer. And other countries, the cost determine the price. It's the opposite in China, because the authoritarian system. So I think as far as India-Russia cooperation is concerned, it's going to be on a very, very high level. There's no question about it. And as far as the US is concerned, I don't see why the US should be upset at all, because this is exactly what the US itself, what President Trump himself was advocating as a candidate, cooperation with Russia. And if we had moved ahead on that track, I can tell you that, we could have done so much, the democracies could have done so much. So very frankly, I think the very wise policy followed by President Putin and Prime Minister Modi is now out there once again for the world to see. And also one more thing for the world to see, that India does not bother about the views of other countries, but the government of India looks to the Indian interest. And where Indian interest is dominating, the view of no other country will dominate. I think that point is very, very important and needs to be stressed. Thank you.
Right. Major General Dhruv Katoch, defense expert, also in fact live with us now. Major General Katoch, as far as, of course, security, defense is concerned, what do you believe would be the takeaways from this visit? Energy also was again another big focus of the discussions between the two heads of state earlier, with Vladimir Putin also making the statement that for developing India, energy needs will never be found wanting from the side of Russia.
Thank you. In my view, as far as the defense, there was an anticipation that perhaps some deal may be signed for the S-400 or the S-500 or something regarding the Su-57, the Su-57 aircraft. Now, all that is not there. And I think one of the reasons why it is not there is because it is a bit too premature. A lot of groundwork is still required before something can be signed on deals of this nature. I presume that work is still ongoing between the two governments. That is one. But I think something very significant has happened, because the war and defense is simply not just about fighter aircraft and air defense systems. It is much more. And when I'm looking at the strategic nature of what has happened, as far as connectivity is concerned and the logistic agreement is concerned, our ability to to have some degree of reliance on all the ports in Russia, and similarly to provide those similar logistic facilities to Russians in the Indian Ocean. I think that is a great plus. It is going to have tremendous strategic implications in the years to come. Number two, as far as the energy sector is concerned, we have always had that problem of the energy transition, and it is a world in which a lot of shocks are taking place. I think with this visit and the deals which have taken place, there is going to be a certain amount of stability as far as issues like our dependency on oil or our requirement of critical earth minerals, the civil nuclear, the needs of India for the civil nuclear deal, especially for the Kudankunal, the nuclear reactor there, and also in trade and technology. So there is going to be, in these particular issues, I think there is going to be a great deal of stability, which will benefit both India and Russia. And lastly, I think, it has nothing to do with anything which has happened in the deals per se and in the announcement. But I think the body language shown by Prime Minister Modi and President Putin over 2 days, since yesterday and today, in my view, I think that is a very, very major takeaway, because the eyes of the world, every single world capital, their TV cameras are focused on this relationship. And it gives out two very clear signals. One, as Professor Madhav Nalapat has very clearly indicated, India will go on the path of strategic autonomy and will do what is in India's interest. Prime Minister Modi also mentioned today, we are not neutral parties. We are on the side of peace. So that was also made very clear. And the second thing is from the Russian side, that isolation, the strategic isolation which people are thinking about. Now, I think that is very clear that is not going to happen. So there are multiple signals which have gone out simply by the manner in which Prime Minister Modi met President Putin.
Yes.
And those visuals, I think, are very, very powerful.
Absolutely.
All in all, I think this has been a great visit, and we can look forward over the years to come.
The bonhomie, the camaraderie stood out clearly for you, of course, and those optics do matter a lot in diplomacy, don't they? My thanks to all of our guests for joining us on the broadcast. Newsx's Brian Thomas has spoken with IndiGo spokesperson on the call to take an update on the situation. During this conversation, the IndiGo staff abruptly hung up after dodging his questions. A reporter didn't stop there. He went inside the terminal, questioned the IndiGo ground staff on the mass cancellations that we're seeing not just in Delhi, but of course across the country. Let's play out this ground report.
So, well, there have been major disruptions in all cities itself. You talk about Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, where we are at the Terminal 1, and people are anticipating major cancellations itself. In 36 hours, more than 1,000 flights have been cancelled, and people are showing their uproar. People are frustrated. They have nowhere to go, and even the alternate flights are costing an hefty amount, and because of that, the people are facing major problems. What we'll do, the fact that we will be talking to the PRO itself, we'll be talking to the IndiGo PRO, and we'll be understanding. Hello, Ankit ji, this is Brian from Newsx.
Yes, sir.
So we wanted to know the fact that the situation has got very bad. What is the situation now? Is it getting any time better, or what is it?
So we're working on it.
Now, also I think IndiGo has tweeted the fact that you are providing hotel accommodations and food for the people, but I have some people with me, and I don't think any of them are getting it. They're outside the airport only. They're just outside the terminal 1 of it, and they've been saying that they are getting no assistance, the fact that their flights have been cancelled and all of that. Hello? 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 Ankit ji, am I audible? Hello? So I think he did not answer, so we'll again try to get him on call, because the fact that the people that are with me, they've been clearly... Ankit ji, am I audible? Hello, Ankit ji, am I audible? Hello?
Hello, Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So I just wanted to check.
Your voice is very static, Brian. I really can't hear you very properly.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Am I audible now?
Brian, your voice is very static. If you can hear me, I would request, in case you can drop me a text with your query, and I'll be happy to reply.
Am I audible now? Am I audible now? Am I audible now? Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? So we'll again try to get in touch with the IndiGo PRO, because they are the spokesperson who are answerable to the people itself, and whenever we've been talking to them, they are not getting the proper answers, or maybe they are not speaking about it. And when we are joined by some people also around, you can see the fact that they've been staying here for a couple of while now, and we will also be attempting to talk to them meanwhile. So yes, now clearly he is not receiving, but till we start trying to talk to them, we'll again attempt to talk to the people itself here and where they've been going. आप लोग कितने time से how long have you been here in the airport? कितने देर से?
From 6 hours.
From 6 hours. Where were you flying to?
From Baku to Bangalore.
And you're seeing that you're seeing cancellations, and has also IndiGo said anything about it? The fact that they've said it on the tweet that they will provide hotel, they will provide food, and in front of you I'll call the spokesperson also, but they did not answer. So do you feel that they are not providing you, because we've been seeing that aap log sab bahar hi ho?
Not feel, they have not provided anything.
He is our tour guide. He is spoken. Akash.
Hello? Yeah, so Akashji, I am from a television channel. I just even spoke to the IndiGo spokesperson to understand the problem, and so clearly he did not answer. He said they are working on it, but when I spoke about, because IndiGo has also tweeted the fact that they will be providing hotel accommodations and food, and there's a lot of people here. 80 people here.
From our group, we have
80 people. So you've been stranded for how many hours now?
8 hours now. We landed at about 10 o'clock. The flight had to land at about 8:30, but we landed at 10:30. So even post that, there's not a single person who's approached. The counters are choco-blocked. There's not 8 hours. I've spoken to people, they have been standing. They have been rescheduling their flights over and over again. It's not just one time. People have been waiting from 3 days. They give them a date. The flight is again cancelled.
And where are you flying to?
We have to go to Bangalore. We came from Baku. And now we got to fly to Bangalore.
So now, I think they've said that from Delhi airport till today midnight, all the flights stands cancelled for IndiGo itself.
Correct.
So did you get any alternative flights or any kind of help or assistance from them?
No other airline is ready to operate the flights. They say they are sold out until 8th or 9th. Because of the situation, what is there with IndiGo?
Also increase it.
50,000, 60,000 for a flight to Bangalore.
It's a 500%.
Yeah, and it's 4 or 5 days ahead. So we don't know what the situation is. Everybody is stranded.
So you can see itself, I'll request the fact that you can see it's 88,000. I think it is more expensive than if you go to London or USA. It is more expensive than that. There's 48,000. And this is towards where? This is Bangalore. And that too, there is a one stop. There's a layover. It's a layover. There were no direct flights.
You can't book it. You can't book it.
Now the fact that I was just reading the tweet and I was talking to him also, the fact that and I even attempted to speak to the spokesperson, he clearly did not answer to media also, but yes, it went on television, so I think the viewers can see it. The fact that the IndiGo airline has said that they will provide you with hotel accommodations, they will provide you with assistance of all that sort, that is food and everything. Are you getting anything of that sort? Are you all getting anything of that
Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Did you ever get
got
it?
our own food. We
actually so far.
Single person coming.
That's what I wanted to ask, because 8 hours here itself and it's winters itself.
Absolutely. Ignore about the promises what they have given. We haven't seen any person who has come and spoke to us in regard to the food and regard of our facilities.
We found one IndiGo person. She also came. Okay, I will send one of the persons who will help you with the accommodation. No trace. The queue is 8-9 hours long. There's nobody ready to respond.
And when we all chucked out from the airport, from inside the airport,
we're not allowed inside.
We were not allowed.
The boards are already put up there. All flights until midnight are cancelled. So we are not even allowed to step inside right now.
So when did you get to know that your flights are getting cancelled or it's getting rescheduled?
There was no update at all. There was no update. Even when we arrived in T3, because our international flight arrived in T3. From T3 to come till T1, we ran because our flight was delayed, and we come here and then we realized that it's cancelled. There was no update, no message, nothing at all from the airline side. It is pathetic.
And is there a customer care number that you can call or something?
4 hours you need to wait on call. There's nobody going to respond to you. And they'll have standard answers. They will have standard answers.
You're saying that if there's samne, but are they talking to you, the IndiGo staff? What are they saying?
8 hours long. People have been standing there from 8 hours.
And again, the saddest part is the fact that it is not just happening here. It is happening in Bangalore, Mumbai and everywhere.
Across India.
And I think also the fact I want our viewers on television who are watching us to also know the fact that the airline are answerable to all the people here. I'm just talking about one bunch of people, that is 80 people here. I'm sure there have been countless others who are voicing their frustration over social media, and even our attempt from television also to the fact for other viewers also to know. We've also given out a helpline number to the fact that if anyone is facing any problems, they can dial that number. But clearly, all the people, I'll request my camera person to just pan around and show the amount of people that has surrounded me, the fact that how difficult the situation is, and it is getting very tense itself, how pathetic the situation, and it is an alarming situation. Now a similar incident happened in Kingfisher itself long back before it disrupted its operation and it went down. So now people are also anticipating whether IndiGo is also planning to disrupt their operations and planning for a close shut itself. So clearly a very major ruckus erupting in the national capital, not just in the national capital but in Mumbai and Bangalore itself. So clearly a major hazard that people are facing at this very point of time. This is me, Brian Andy Thomas, and your camera person, Akash for Newsx Delhi. But there are other, you've given out a tweet the fact that you will be giving out hotel accommodations and you will be giving stays and refreshments itself. Now the people have been stranded here outside, and these people, there have been more than 100, 200 people who've been there for 8 hours and you're not answerable to them. But you've given out a tweet, but they're not getting a proper answer something, or they're not getting something that they want. Now you delayed the flight, you cancel the flight, whatever reason it is, right? But now they're facing these problems. There's this one woman there who's crying, okay? And there are many people who are facing all these problems.
Whoever need full refund, I'm just here to help them.
No, it's not about the refund.
I completely understand the fact that you're helping them. But then when you've tweeted from your platform and it is in public domain, no, see, listen, it is our duty. You cannot tell us. It is not about privacy. You're authorized to speak about. But the fact that you're also answerable, the fact that you're supposed to give them hotel accommodations and refreshments itself that they deserve. They've been here for 10 hours, 14 hours. And if you don't answer to them, and also the fact that us, because we represent the people itself, we are the fourth pillar of democracy. If you do not reply to any of them, they will be agitated. They will be frustrated. And you are answerable to them because you're working in this organization or this company itself. We understand you.
Sir, you need to question any manager or higher authority, right?
But again, you should know what the hierarchy is going on, right?
Sir,
and if you are with them,
I understand people are suffering with this, but I'm not the one who is answerable for this, right? Accountable for this, right?
So then, if you're not answerable, maybe you can call one of your managers, some of your representative, higher authorities who can come and answer them.
Even you need to understand, sir. There are many people, even they are handling everyone, right?
Yeah,
so that will take time for them to clear. But
then again,
so you
who
need
will
to give that time, right?
see? Then it is not their fault, no, that they've been waiting here for endless time itself. So clearly, they've been saying that they will give refund in 1 week. But again, when you see the crowd itself, you can see how chaotic itself. Now clearly, people have been asking the fact that I don't think she's answering to me anymore. The fact that no, but sir, the fact that okay. But again, we are showing you the fact that the situation is getting very grim here, and we are trying to record the fact and show itself that the situation is getting adverse itself and very bad itself. Now we have been told by these authorities to escort itself, but clearly we are showing what the reality is from ground zero. The people are completely agitated, frustrated. You can see the crowd here, and this is one bunch of it. You can imagine the fact that there have been hundreds and thousands of people who are affected by this, and it is not just in the national capital. It's happening in Mumbai, it's happening in Bangalore, it's happening in Hyderabad, and major international airports, are seeing this disruption itself. So clearly itself the fact that people have been telling us to go out, but we are on ground zero to report how people are facing these. Now we've also asked and questioned the IndiGo spokesperson. We started with questioning the IndiGo spokesperson, then we also questioned the IndiGo staff. They have been mum about it. They have not been speaking how bad the situation is. We've been talking to them. We've been trying to talk to them. They have not been answering to our questions. They've been evading the questions. So clearly, it
सोच रहा हूँ टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस ले लूं ताकि मेरे बाद फैमिली को पैसों की कमी ना हो। तू भी ले ले।
अबे जल्दी क्या है, बाद में देख लेंगे। आराम से। अब तक कुणाल को हार्ट अटैक आ गया यार।
पॉलिसी बाजार पर 0 GST के साथ अब 1 करोड़ का टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 400 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
यूपी ऑन द राइज, सुन ले आसमां, डबल इंजन का ये मिशन महान। 2047 तक हम न रुकेंगे, 6 ट्रिलियन का ड्रीम पूरा करेंगे। मथुरा की गलियों में गूंजे है राधा, अयोध्या में दूर हुई मंदिर की बाधा, काशी प्रयागराज की गोल्डन चमक, यूपी सरकार की गूंजे धमक। सड़कों पर फर्राटा फिक्रलेस बिल्कुल बिंदास, एक्सप्रेस वे पर साए पूरा विश्वास। विकसित यूपी की बढ़ गई प्यास, 2047 का ये विजन बहुत खास। माफिया का दी एंड, फियर गॉन, योगी राज में लॉ एंड ऑर्डर हुआ स्ट्रॉन्ग। बेखौफ घूमे जनता, गुंडों पर मार, नया यूपी तोड़ रहा पुरानी दीवार। यूपी ऑन द राइज, सुन ले आसमां, डबल इंजन का ये मिशन महान। 2047 तक हम न रुकेंगे, 6 ट्रिलियन का ड्रीम पूरा करेंगे।
25 लाख का हॉस्पिटल बिल है, इतने पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे?
पैसों की चिंता आप मत कीजिए पापा।
मैम, सर का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस क्लेम अप्रूव हो गया है।
आप
पॉलिसी बाजार।
पॉलिसी बाजार पर 0 GST के साथ अब 1 करोड़ का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 550 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज़x का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा इतना सशक्त, मजबूत, जिससे आप बनेंगे पत्रकारिता की दुनिया का वो चमकता चेहरा जो दुनिया देखेगी और पसंद करेगी।
दिसंबर में हमारी 23वीं समिट के लिए 140 करोड़ भारतीय उत्सुकतापूर्वक आपका इंतजार कर रहे हैं.
Сделано в Индии, ощутимый. Вот не грех повторять то, что
in the workforce. Now, more and more women are giving financial independence a lot of priority, sometimes even more than marriage. They want to be financially independent. Women have now very much a very strong part of the workforce. The offices are also been made to be gender sensitive.
Women have always worked. It is just that post-World War II that women came out in the workforce, which is paid workforce. In the paid workforce, yes, there is always the first time that these imbalances are worked out.
Women at work, and the solution for more women at work is not going to happen till such time that the care economy structurally gets addressed, which means that other than X number of days or weeks around the time that a child is born, caregiving has to be much more equally shared in society, in families, and between men and women.
We're not waiting for someone else to rescue us. They're more concerned about keeping themselves stronger health-wise and applying it to them protecting themselves. They don't want to wait, for a Prince Charming to come and save them. But they are their own savior.
So what we women want at these times on Newsx.
Would Russia support India in the event of India taking any action against terrorist bases in Pakistan?
We strongly condemn terrorism, and we know that India has faced this threat numerous times, and we stay together with people of India.
दिसंबर में हमारी 23वीं समिट के लिए 140 करोड़ भारतीय उत्सुकतापूर्वक आपका इंतजार कर रहे हैं.
Сделано в Индии, ощутимый. Вот не грех повторять то, что
in the workforce. Now, more and more women are giving financial independence a lot of priority, sometimes even more than marriage. They want to be financially independent. Women have now very much a very strong part.
There have been thousands of passengers across the country that have been facing turmoil. There is chaos and confusion at airports across the country, whether it is Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru, Chennai, Kolkata, Ahmedabad, Pune. All of these areas, all of these regions, all of these cities are facing a logjam. Why? Because IndiGo is at fault. It did not comply with the crew duty limitation orders that had been issued by the Directorate General of the Civil Aviation. It was implemented 1 month ago. There was a 2-year preparation time that had been given to all domestic airlines in the country to adhere by them. But IndiGo refused to do so. It put a hiring freeze for its cabin crew and captains and its pilots. It combined the leaves that had to be granted to the pilots for recovery period alongside the days, the weekly offs or the duration of time that is required for a pilot to recoup and recover and get back to duty after having flown the requisite number of hours. These changes had been made by the DGCA keeping in mind aviation safety to ensure that there is no risk of accidents mid-air when pilots are flying, when the crew is on board, when passengers are flying. There have been all sorts of very confused sort of shrugging of responsibility. Those are the kind of responses that IndiGo chairmanship had gone ahead and made. That was on Wednesday. If I'll just like to go through these, these flimsy excuses that IndiGo came out and made in front of the public, talking about how these anomalies, these delays and massive cancellations was because of some quote-unquote minor technical glitch, and because it was linked to the schedule changes that happened because of the winter season. Then IndiGo goes on to blame adverse weather conditions across the country that led to these cancellations. About, I think 70, 80, 90% of their flights have been cancelled, they have been grounded. It goes on then puts the blame on the congestion in the aviation system, and it goes on and finally says that the FDTL, the flight duty time limitation rules that had been implemented by the DGCA were not followed, and it brushes its hands off the taking the responsibility that it did not do the requisite number of hirings. It put a freeze on the salaries of the pilots, of the crew members. It just completely washes off its hands of this entire problem till it escalates up until today. There have been flights from major aviation sectors, whether it is Mumbai or Delhi or Bengaluru, all the departure flights of IndiGo across the country stand cancelled. I'm going to take this up, and we need to question IndiGo. We would like IndiGo's CEO to come out and make a statement, own up to this huge mistake, this blunder that has been committed, that has led to the problems that people are facing, the commuters are facing, businesses have been lost. In fact, there is utter chaos and confusion. Flights at this point of time, even if passengers are looking to take an alternative flight, those flights are costing you about 80 to 85 to 88,000. I mean, it's unfathomable prices of flight tickets. So it's the consumer that is stranded. So far, we have not gotten any intimation of whether IndiGo is going to be reimbursing these people, and has it decided to rebook their flights to take them to their respective destinations. Visuals on your screens tell the story, narrate the entire story. Look at those airline counters at the airports, where people are just gathered in large numbers asking questions, and those representatives of IndiGo really trying hard to answer the questions does not seem like they are getting any conclusive responses, any responses that will satisfy them, that will ameliorate their situation. That's the problem that the country is facing right now. It's a complete standstill is what it is that the nation has to bear because of the singular fault of an airline, the most successful as it claims to be, the most profitable as it claims to be. 60% of air traffic operations are run by IndiGo up until now, and it refused to adhere to the DGCA orders. It thought it could just wing it. Well, here it is. Here is how you have penny pinched. You have tried to save money by not hiring people, by not increasing their salaries, by using non-poaching arrangements, and the result is for all to see. Okay, let's start off our conversation. I am right now being joined by my reporter Shahid Ansari. Shahid Ansari is in Mumbai. He's at the Mumbai airport. Shahid, what's the situation on the ground right now?
देखिए, अभी मैं मुंबई इंटरनेशनल टर्मिनल 2 के पास में मौजूद हूँ, जहाँ पे इंडिगो ने अपने काउंटर खोल रखे हैं लोगों के लिए कि जिनकी फ्लाइट कैंसिल हुई है, रिशेड्यूल हुई है या इस तरह की जो भी समस्याएं हैं, और आगे के लिए जो है काउंटर खोल रखे हैं। लेकिन अहम बात यह है कि क्या इन सब के बीच जो जनता की, जो आवाम की समस्याएं थी, क्या वो समस्याएं दूर हुई? सवाल यही है। तो उनका जवाब यही है कि नहीं। और ये समस्याएं पिछले 4 दिन से चल रही थी, और उन समस्याओं की सबसे बड़ी जो जीती जागती मिसाल है वो आप देख सकते हैं कि अभी भी इंडिगो का जो काउंटर है, अभी भी बाहर कम से कम 20-25 लोग खड़े हुए हैं। दिन में यही तादाद जो है तकरीबन 300 से 400 थी, और इंडिगो के जो काउंटर है यहाँ महज 2 लोग थे जो इनकी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर रहे थे। तो ये लोग अभी भी जो है खड़े हैं, लोग काफी देर से खड़े हैं, और हर एक की अपनी अपनी समस्या है। किसी के टिकट कैंसिल, उसके साथ साथ जो है रीशेड्यूल, फिर दूसरी फ्लाइट को लेकर इस तरह के लोग जो है यहाँ पे मौजूद है। अब अगर देखिए दूसरे इलाकों में या दूसरे शहरों में बात करें, मुंबई हो, अहमदाबाद हो, पुणे हो, नागपुर हो, बंगलौर हो, इन सारे जगहों पे जो है जो समस्याएं हैं वो जो का त्यों अभी भी बरकरार है। अब देखिए इंडिगो ने जो इन सब चीजों को लेकर कहा था महज 48 घंटे में ये सब कुछ सॉल्व हो जाएगा, तो वो तो सॉल्व हुआ नहीं, बल्कि वो समस्याएं और बढ़ती गई। क्योंकि जब 1000 से ज्यादा फ्लाइट कैंसिल होगी तो जाहिर सी बात है कि यात्रियों की तादाद जो है 1000 में नहीं बल्कि लाखों में पहुंच जाएगी, और फिर एक साथ जो है इनको इनके समस्याओं को हल करना इतना आसान नहीं हो सकता। हालांकि इंडिगो ने जो है इन सब के बीच में जो है 2-3 बातें कही थी, जिनमें से मौसम की खराबी, स्टाफ की कमी और टेक्निकल इश्यूज, ये इन्होंने ये हवाला दिया था। लेकिन उन सब के बाद भी डीजीसीए ने पहले जो है वजह बताओ नोटिस जारी की, फिर एक इमरजेंसी बैठक हुई, फिर डीजीसीए ने वो कानून जो है अपने वापस ले लिए। तो इन सब के बीच में अभी भी अगर समस्याओं की बात करें, जो जनता है उनकी समस्याएं, जो पैसेंजर है, अभी भी जो है समस्याएं दूर नहीं हुई, क्योंकि अभी भी लोग यहाँ खड़े हुए हैं। और हम इन लोगों से भी बातचीत करेंगे। क्या दिक्कतें हैं, कहाँ जाना था आपको?
मुझे बैंगलोर की फ़्लाइट थी, लेकिन ना कैंसिल हो चुका है वो फ़्लाइट। एक्चुअली हमारे पास पहले मैसेज आया कि बैंगलोर का फ़्लाइट है वो कैंसिल हो चुका है। उसके बाद आता है कि आप लोग ये लगेज ये चेक कर सकते हैं। तो उसके बाद हम लोग सोचे कि ठीक हो गया, तो हम लोग इधर आए तो देखा कि फुल कैंसिल। बस यही चल रहा है। अभी पता नहीं
लगेज मिला आपका?
लगेज हमने चेक इन नहीं किया। अच्छा। हम इधर आ गए काउंटर में, तो अभी तक लगे हुए हैं, पता नहीं क्या करेंगे। अभी तक कोई डिसीजन हुआ नहीं है, लेकिन बहुत, क्योंकि हमारा कनेक्टिंग फ्लाइट है बैंगलोर से लंकावी इंडिगो। अच्छा। हाँ, 4 बजे। तो अभी समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि हम
एक जो है गलती की वजह से बाकी जो कनेक्टिविटी रही वो पूरी तरह से उस पर इफेक्ट पड़ा।
पूरा इफेक्ट। अभी हम लोग पता नहीं क्या करेंगे, अभी सोच रहे क्या करते हैं, देखते हैं। अभी काउंटर में अभी आए हैं।
कितनी देर से आप यहाँ खड़े हैं?
हम लोग आए हैं 6 बजे, शाम 6 बजे से खड़े हैं, क्योंकि हमारा बैंगलोर का फ्लाइट 8:45 को थी। तो बस यही है, अब देखते हैं क्या होता है। क्योंकि हमें क्या टेंशन है कि हमें कनेक्टिंग फ्लाइट है फ्रॉम बैंगलोर टू लंकावी। हाँ, सुबह 4 बजे का। हाँ।
और भी लोगों से बातचीत करते हैं जो यहाँ मौजूद हैं। आप कहाँ जाने वाले थे और आपको क्या दिक्कत आई?
मैं बेंगलोर जाना है। माई फ्लाइट इज कैंसिल। आई रिसीव मैसेज आफ्टर कमिंग टू द एयरपोर्ट।
आपको पहले नहीं पता चला? एयरपोर्ट आने के बाद पता चला कि आपकी फ्लाइट कैंसिल हुई है?
एयरपोर्ट आने के बाद पता चला फ्लाइट, क्योंकि कोई मैसेज नहीं आया मेरे को अभी फ्लाइट कैंसिल है।
ये सबसे बड़ी कमी रही है इंडिगो की कि इन सब के बीच में भी जो है उन्होंने कम्युनिकेशन का जो जरिया रहा है वो पूरी तरह से खत्म कर दिया, ताकि जो पैसेंजर हैं उनसे कम्युनिकेट अगर वो करते तो संभव है कि बहुत सारे लोग एयरपोर्ट नहीं आते और ये समस्याएं जो है उतनी नहीं होती। आपको सर क्या दिक्कत आई, कहाँ जाने वाले थे और क्या समस्याएं हैं?
मैं तो हैदराबाद जाने वाला हूँ जी। भाई आज फ्लाइट चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा है, इसीलिए मैं काउंटर में पूछने आया था।
अच्छा, तो आपकी फ्लाइट कब की थी जब हैदराबाद आपको जाना था? वो कब की फ्लाइट थी आपकी?
हम तो हैदराबाद तो भाई बस आया हूँ अभी।
अच्छा।
फिर हमारा स्टाफ जा रहे हैं केनिया एयरलाइंस में। अच्छा। उनको जाने के बाद मेरे को जाना है हैदराबाद। तो अभी वहाँ बोर्ड में तो डोमेस्टिक दिख रही है। हाँ। 245 को है। हाँ। यहाँ पर हम ऑनलाइन चेक करने से नहीं मिल रहा। अच्छा। तो उसको इसलिए काउंटर में आया पूछने के लिए कि टिकट मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा। क्या
आपको सर कहाँ जाना था, क्या दिक्कत?
I'm traveling to Chennai.
Chennai. क्या परेशानी हुई आपको? See, I was traveling from Amsterdam yesterday, so I reached the Mumbai airport at 2 o'clock in the morning, and my first flight was cancelled at 6:30. They said it was moved to 8:30.
अभी के क्या सिचुएशन है सुबह से और अभी?
And now
current situation क्या है?
While my reporter is talking to those stranded passengers, I am getting a phone call from yet another aggrieved passenger. His name is Srinivas. Srinivas, where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm not an aggrieved passenger, Megha. I'm calling from Hyderabad. I was at I just wanted to tell you, right? I mean, basically, I had an experience today, right? I was at a data science summit in Hyderabad, and several speakers, who were supposed to travel to Hyderabad, they all cancelled their flights, and very much, it was extremely, the organizers were running helter-skelter to fill in for the, people who were not able to make it to Hyderabad, right? And some people joined on the video con, etc., etc. My only, obviously, IndiGo being the largest carrier in India, carries the maximum number of passengers daily in India. They have to be held accountable, right? Obviously, they didn't get their act together in terms of filling their rosters and hiring new crew members, both in terms of pilots and first officers. They must be held accountable, and they owe more than an apology to the nation, right? I mean, this is kind of a loss of faith, if you will, right? Across the board, more than close to about 2,000 flights cancelled. I mean, it's a real shame, right? And I hope the DGCA will get to the root of the problem. They will investigate thoroughly, and they will penalize IndiGo to the extent possible. That's all, thank you.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. IndiGo needs to be apologizing to the public instead of making these very flimsy excuses that their boss came out and made that statement. I don't know if was he the CEO, some foreign national who has been appointed by IndiGo as the CEO. Now here the excuses that have been given is just laughable. IndiGo 2 days ago on Wednesday actually came out and said that these problems that are arising are because of some minor technical glitch. Then it goes on to say that it is because winter. Therefore, there are these schedule changes that have happened, and there are some adjustments that are to be made, and therefore this is led to this 5 flight delays and cancellations. Then IndiGo goes on to say that this is because of the adverse weather conditions that the country is facing. Then it blames the congestion in the aviation system, and then it says that there are some minor FDTL, the flight duty time limitation orders, the rules that the DGCA has implemented a month ago, they were not able to inculcate these rules. They were not able to implement these rules in their rosters and so on, and these things. So that's shameful. That's shocking. The fact that you are the biggest domestic airline in the country, you have the hugest revenues that you earn from your flights that fly all across the country. In fact, your aircraft and your crew are overutilized, they are overworked. You fly many late nights, many V-hour flights. Your high frequency network does not match the number of crew members, the number of pilots that you at this point of time have hired. That alone is the problem. You've tried to pinch pennies. You have given your airline executives 100% hikes in your salaries. Those are record unprecedented hikes in the past few months and years, while your pilots have witnessed hike pay freezes. The pay freezes that what they have witnessed and then you've put a freeze on hiring, and you're shortchanging these pilots. You are buying back their leaves by giving them money, asking them to work and reduce the number of leaves that they're supposed to take after they finish their stipulated period of maximum number of hours that they can fly over the course of the days. I'm going to get my colleague, my reporter Renik, who is in Kolkata. Renik, what's the situation on the ground? If you could speak to some people and tell us what is this ordeal that they have been going through.
हाँ एकदम ही देखिए, मैं इस वक्त मौजूद हूँ कोलकाता एयरपोर्ट में और कोलकाता एयरपोर्ट का तस्वीर आप देखिए कि बहुत सारे लोग इधर आए हैं, इधर वेट कर रहे हैं, मगर उनका जो फ्लाइट है वो कैंसिल हो चुका है। मैडम कहाँ जा रहे थे आप?
बेसिकली हैदराबाद जा रही हूँ।
तो कब कैंसिल हुआ, आपको कब इन्फॉर्मेशन आया?
बेसिकली मैं इधर आके पता चला कि हाँ कैंसिल हुआ।
तो इंडिगो की तरफ से कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन इससे पहले दिया गया था?
नहीं, कोई मैसेज और मेल वगैरह कुछ नहीं दिया।
तो अभी क्या इंडिगो की तरफ से कहा जा रहा है?
मैं तो अभी वापस जा रही हूँ क्योंकि अभी कोई फ्लाइट नहीं है, आज भी कोई फ्लाइट नहीं है, कल भी नहीं है। तो लेट्स सी कब
क्या रिफंड दे रहा है और रिशेड्यूल किया जा रहा है?
वो तो बोला है कि रिफंड कर देगा, बट आई डोंट नो, मैं बुक नहीं किया तो वो जो बुक किया मिल जाएगा, मिल जाना चाहिए।
एकदम ही, और भी बहुत सारे लोग इधर मौजूद थे। सब कहाँ जा रहे थे?
Pardon? Where are you saying?
Where are you going?
I'm going to Delhi.
So now, what is the situation inside?
All cancelled flights. All flights cancelled.
All right, I'll let Ranik be. He's speaking to people on the ground. I'm also being joined by Mr. T.S. Singh Deo. He's the former Deputy Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh. Mr. Deo, what do you make of this entire situation? The country has been held to ransom.
It is unfortunate. One aspect is that the passengers have been brought to great discomfort and great inconvenience. There has been no communication in time from the flight companies. They should have let the passengers know well in advance if the flight was to be cancelled. Refund, etc. is another issue which is, I think, less important, because I'm sure they would be having to do the refund, etc. or book the next flight. But not to tell them in advance, that is one unfortunate thing. The other aspect is that the government should have been wise to this. They have a lot of experience now, more than 11 years in governance. And when you're making regulatory changes, there has to be a process of consultation, and you reach an agreement, you reach a consensus with the companies, and then you impose those conditions. Apparently, the experience of the government falls lacking here. They should have not allowed the passengers.
These rules, these flight duty rules, the limitation rules had been announced by the government. Preparation time of 2 years has been given. It was implemented a month ago. In fact, do you think this is a way that airlines are sort of arm twisting the aviation regulatory authority? That listen, we really won't do anything about it, no matter if you give us 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and if you implement these rules, this is the chaos that is going to incur, this is the chaos that is going to happen, and it's nothing really that you can do about it but to extend your, but to put extensions, but to put rules like these in abeyance, what the DGCA has had to do now.
That is what I am trying to say, that with the experience in governance, you are supposed to be aware that these sort of situations will come around through a process of consultation. I doubt anybody would be so irresponsible as to initially say that we are on board, and once the rules are implemented, then they rebel against them. I don't think that is really possible. So there seems to be a lack of communication between the government, the DGCA, and the companies who are flying the airlines.
So why do you think only IndiGo, after the implementation of these rules, of the crew duty limitation rules that have been announced and that implemented by the regulatory authority, why is it that IndiGo has been singled out? Why are other airlines not having the same problem that IndiGo is?
IndiGo may be a low-cost airline, and if you regulate the number of flying hours beyond a rational point, then you will be having to keep extra staff, which will add to the cost.
Exactly.
And eventually who pays? It is the customer who eventually has to pay. Neither the government nor is the airline going to take that extra cost. So there must have been some such reason. I am not really fully aware of the intricacies. But what I meant exactly was that these things are worked out in advance so that compliance is ensured. You don't leave any ground, any space for such an ugly situation to come around.
So now what should the government do? Now what should the DGCA and the Ministry of Civil Aviation do? Listen, we have given you 2 years of preparation time to pull your socks, hire the requisite number of people, because we don't want flights to be at risk. We don't want any aviation safety mishaps to happen. We want our pilots and crew to be well rested. You cannot have their weekly offs and their leaves all combined together. You cannot buy back their leaves just by paying them money and forcing them to work simply because you are giving them this incentive of money in exchange for the leaves that they can forego. If all of this has not been implemented in 2 years, what should the DGCA do right now?
It is unimaginable that any rules which are rational and acceptable would be challenged, They would also be losing out. They are losing out on passenger, they are losing out on credit, they are losing out on, let us say, even profitability. And have we heard of any accidents due to this? I haven't. So is the regulation beyond acceptable aspect? The other aspect is the monopolization. Mentioned that the other one, and I don't know what the competition level is a company being forced to fall in line. I really don't know anything about that. I really don't have any responsible information. But whenever you allow monopolies to come into play, you have a open economy system. Many people vouch for that is the way to go ahead. And then when you create such monopolies, it is very easy for that particular individual company or association to then put pressure like this. So all round, you have to see that balances are created. Reasonable checks are there, and consultation is there beforehand, before you allow such a situation to come around.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir, for joining me.
Thank you.
And sharing your views. I'm also being joined by Dilip Chirian. Dilip, rules that are very welcome that have been made by the DGCA. When you talk about provide the weekly rest period for pilots, it has been increased from 36 hours to 48 hours. You cannot, as management, as administration, ask the pilot to combine his stipulated period of time where he or she has to take rest with the leaves that he or she has applied to take the time off. There have been instances, as has been claimed by the pilots associations who have come out and questioned IndiGo and its work ethics, on how there has been a freeze that has been imposed on pilot hiring, how IndiGo management has been buying back these leaves that the pilots, or buying back these days off that the pilots receive because they have to take that rest, so that they can work and they can be given an extra compensation for the off days that they work. How this is unethical, this is immoral, and this is playing with the lives of people who are on board the aircraft. How do you see this panning out? Do you think the government will penalize IndiGo, and what should be the right punishment?
The biggest damage that's happened is to IndiGo's image. The image of an airline which was known to be hyper efficient and super affordable. I think both have been, destroyed in this whole exercise. Now, if you want to really pinpoint blame, you really need to look at how the new rules of pilot deployment was being framed, and what is safety and how much does this contribute to safety. I think airlines and pilots will have very different views on this. Number three, if you want a low-cost airline in this country, this is standing proof that you can't have just one. You have an exceptionally well-run airline company like Akasa, which actually has not been affected because there's been planning and implementation. So I think giving up rules at this point of time under pressure of a so-called emergency, which IndiGo has ascribed to 5 different things, is an error that the government is doing in terms of diluting things for one company.
Yes.
That's not how governments should function. And most importantly, you really need to ensure that there is more competition in the sector. And if India is to grow at 15% of aviation, industry growth, you just can't expect 1 or 2 carriers to do this. You need a 3rd carrier, a 4th carrier, and a 5th carrier of high efficiency. And government needs to encourage more people to come into this sector. And the worst thing is that at a time when we had a very high energy visit by Putin, this disruption has taken him off the screens, and the focus now seems to be on our inability to keep our aviation sector flying high. To my mind, the biggest image damage has happened to India, because India was supposed to have a great aviation sector, and the skies were blue and everything was going well. But now we have a global outage, as it were, which is visible to everybody who's traveling, because don't forget that in this season, about 30% of passengers are actually overseas visitors who are using the airline.
Dilip, you rightly mentioned that, this is a strategy, could be a well-planned strategy, because they don't want to follow the rules. There is an extension that has now been given by the DGCA. There is a panel that has been made. They are going to be reviewing what really happened, what is the cause of this massive cancellation that has resulted in complete turmoil, confusion, chaos at airports across the country. But the question,
to top it all,
yeah,
you had the CEO come and give a statement which does not, as somebody who's run communications for multiple airlines over several decades, let me tell you that statement was woefully inadequate, and it just doesn't have the ring of either honesty or foresight.
No, absolutely it did not, because according to the CEO, it was a minor quote-unquote technical glitch. It was also because there were the weather vagaries. It was also because of the winter season that was upon us, therefore these timing changes, and therefore the adjustments had to be made, and so on and so forth. This is what he came out and said, and he said that within 48 hours, this is all going to be, we will tide over it. And lo and behold, it is 4 days, and now what IndiGo has admitted is that it is going to cut down its flights by 50% up until February 8th, which is more than, actually it's almost 2 months, is they are going to fly at reduced flights. 50% of their airline routes are going to be cut. And who do you think, which airline do you think is going to, then fulfill the number of demands that will obviously rise? Do you think the supply is going to go down? And therefore, today I see the flight tickets are up to 85,000 rupees for a person who's traveling from Delhi to, say, Bengaluru, or Delhi to Chennai.
I think the only winner is going to be Vande Bharat, because you cannot create an airline in such short notice, and definitely airlines like Akasa and even Air India have capacity constraints today.
Right, absolutely. What penal action must be taken against IndiGo?
I think, penal action against an airline is not going to get you anywhere. You need to do better planning, and also DGCA and other authorities need to turn the mirror inwards. You had the opportunity to actually monitor whether airlines were being prepared for this kind of exigency. You can't wash your hands of it at the last minute and blame it on the corporate alone. Certainly the corporate should be called to task and held accountable. I'm not saying no for a minute. Certainly other airlines that have done well should be rewarded. But also government needs to understand that it is the job of the regulator to be watching all this and paying more attention to whether companies are capable of conforming to new rules. So
I mean, is it
there's
about the
nobody who's blamed
capability?
there.
Is it about the capability of a company to conform to the rules? Because IndiGo is a money minting company, airline. Let's face that. We have been seeing their executives getting up to 100%, even exceeding 100% hikes. And in contrast, you're not hiring. You put a hiring freeze. You are overworking your pilot and overworking your crew. So obviously there is a massive discrepancy, and this discrepancy comes from the management wanting to fill in its coffers while working at skeleton costs, and that has resulted in this complete mayhem that we have witnessed right now. So again the question, it's not about them being capable or incapable of conforming to the rules that the DGCA has laid down, and which are very essential and very important. You cannot be a flight risk. At the end of the day, you are responsible for hundreds and thousands of people who are flying on your aircraft. And so the question is, they deliberately choose not to do it. Isn't 2 years enough to go back and review where are you falling short of staff? If you have to increase a pilot's stipulated time off from 36 hours to 48 hours, there have been other guidelines that have been provided by the DGCA for pilots' leaves and so on and so forth. You cannot take 2 years to decipher, understand, and still not be able to do anything about it.
3 months at the end of 6 months as to whether the recruiting is going on, because don't forget, an airline regulator has a lot to do, and also they do spend a lot of time doing a whole bunch of things. So, I'm saying the company is at fault. That's visible, and we don't need to debate that. But are there others whose jobs should have been, and the government and the ministry should have been, to ensure that they know that India needs airlines that fly, and winter is the season when you have the maximum number of tourist traffic. So what you're doing is you're destroying the image of India, because these tourists will go back with stories of how difficult it is to navigate India.
All right, Dilip Churian, stay on with me. I'm joined right now by Ishika Salaria. She is at the IGI airport in New Delhi. Ishika, what's the state?
Chaos prevails at the Delhi airport, and I'm standing outside the Terminal 1 where departures have been happening, and I'm joined with passengers who are extremely anxious, angry, and all they have to ask is who is accountable, who is responsible for this mess that has been created in India's aviation sector, thanks to IndiGo that promises comfortable flights and the best of passenger experience. I'm joined with Alina. Alina, you here at the Delhi airport. Tell us what happened with you.
So I checked. So I'm traveling here from Delhi to Lucknow. I'm coming here directly from a conference, and I checked the status of the flight multiple times on the website, and it said that it's confirmed. And that's why me and my sister, we came to the airport in the hopes that, okay, maybe our flight has not been cancelled. It's Mumbai or maybe Chennai or Bangalore that has been affected, and maybe not Lucknow. Now I get here, I go to the security, and they tell us that all domestic flights by IndiGo have been cancelled. And now I'm left in a limbo because I don't know what to do. So I wait outside the terminal for some time.
Alina, did you get any message from the airline telling you that your flight is going to be cancelled? Is it going to be rescheduled? Was the status shared with you prior to this?
No status was shared. I come here, I go to several customer addressal points. One is inside, one is located here outside. They tell me there are two options. One is that I can have my flight rescheduled for after 8th of December, which is 3 days time from now. The second option is that I get my flight rescheduled. Now that does not account for all the time and money I spent to come to the airport in the first place. The customer helpline is down. I don't know what or whom to approach at this point.
Did you get any assistance from IndiGo? You said that the customer's helpline is down. How many times did you try them? Did you get any help from any on-ground staffer here at the Delhi airport?
I did get some help from the staff that are on ground here. They did tell me about the two options, and knowing that those are the only two options I have, I'm opting for a refund because I cannot wait to have my flight delayed or my trip delayed until the 8th of December. So I'll probably have to book a train. But again, all that hassle that I'm going through, IndiGo will not be helping me through that, will it?
All right. So clearly what you can see is that passengers are anxious, they're angry, and they're asking one question very clearly, who's accountable for all of this mess? Because IndiGo, mind you, contributes of about 64.2% of the aviation sector. You can see right behind me, there's so many passengers who are also anxious. What happened with you? What was your flight cancelled?
Yes, my flight has been cancelled. Like, I was supposed to go to Goa on this day. It was scheduled on 3 p.m. but I waited here till now. But I got the news that the flight has been cancelled.
What time did you get this news? Did you get it prior to your arrival here?
No, after arriving here.
After arriving here, you got to know?
Yeah, I got to know.
How did you get to know? Through what media?
Not through media. Like, I went through. I got the news from the guards at the gate.
You spoke to the guards yourself. You walked to them and asked them whether your flight was, flights are taking off or not.
Yes. Sorry, I need to leave.
So clearly you can see that there are passengers who are anxious. Several of them
speak to those aggrieved passengers who are standing in queue, really don't know what to do. There is no communication whatsoever that has been given to them by the IndiGo staff. Clearly, you do not want to be in a situation such as this. I'm right now also being joined by Surjit Panesar. He's an aviation expert. Surjit, a number of these pilot associations have come out and raised questions, raised doubts about the work ethics of IndiGo Airline. How do you view this entire situation, and what do you think has happened?
Straight, IndiGo is one of the biggest airlines in our country. They have been operating very normally, and people are very happy to fly by IndiGo. And this situation, which is just arisen 2 days ago, it is not all of a sudden. It is definitely a conspiracy. If there's a problem of FDTL, why they could not talk to the DGCA across the table and solve the problem? Bring the pilots. Okay, what are your problem? The main issue is the FDTL and the crew rest. They want a proper rest after long flights. No, this after 2 days they have imported officer in operation. I just saw his statement. He's apologizing to the public. What do you mean by apologizing? You could not plan this strategy if you're going to start this strategy cancelling a flight. No, there are hotels. People who come from neighboring cities to go further connection. They could have given them cheaper hotels in Mahipalpur. They are good hotels, 3-star hotels. They could have given. They are not given the food. They are not given water. They are not given the hotel accommodation. How much serious the issue is this? It's a grave concern. Such a big airline with enough money, they are getting it. Even now today, you can book a seat. You book a seat, and when you go to the airport, the flight is cancelled. Why they have not issued a public notice to inform the public the flights are going to be cancelled? They should be sure. Such an airline should have planned which flight they are going to cancel it, but due shortage of crew. No, this is a very bad planning and ill planning by the imported officer, which they imported from other countries to plan the airline. I'm saying, were they sleeping? Just 2 days ago, they got out of slumber sleep and they wanted to ground the flight and cause inconvenience to the passengers. In Indian Airlines, whenever the union gave a strike notice, they used to plan a program much ahead of that thing, if the pilots go on strike, how to handle the situation. Now, in this case, when they knew they were going to cancel the flight for shortage of crew, why they have not planned to inform them well in advance so that they don't leave their residence? But there are people who have different programs. Their programs have been shattered. Imagine their state. You are not given the accommodation, you don't give the food at the airport, you don't give the water at the airport. What a sad situation. They should have sent them to some religious place for food and all that they cannot provide. They should send them to Gurdwara for free lunch.
It's a matter any kind of compensation at this time, any time of compensation at this time is really going to help the passenger who's wanting to go from one place to another. I don't know, to meet their loved ones. There must be some business conferences that they may want to attend. They may have to attend. A loss of business, loss of opportunities. I don't know. There must be so many reasons. There must be some emergency that a person may have wanted to fly to some other place in other part of India and cannot do so because there they are stranded with they have nothing with them to really do anything about their situation that they have gotten themselves stuck in, except to curse themselves for having booked the IndiGo flight.
Imagine the strategy of people who are coming from abroad for long haul flight, 15 hours, 16 hours, they are coming and they have to go to the other cities in India. They are stranded in Delhi. No accommodation, no food, no water. What is this going on with this airline? They don't have money. They are very reasonable hotels across the airport. They should immediately put them in the hotel and looked after their children also, old people, young people. This is a very sad. And I'm shocked the IndiGo is ill-planned. They have imported manager. They imported from other country. Were they sleeping? Now he's giving an apology. The apology does not work. You look after the passengers.
Right.
Give them accommodation, give them food. Take care of them.
Yeah. Stay on with me, sir. I'm also being joined by Wing Commander Jagmohan Manthena. Wing Commander Manthena, situation that has become so dire. We don't know when a solution will be found. If a solution will be found in the next day or two, will this go on for a week? How are passengers going to be compensated? How are they going to be assured that the amount of time, money that they have spent is going to be compensated back to them? And of course, the precious hours that they have left, they have spent over here is something that is not coming back to them.
Namaste, ma'am. I don't think it is possible to compensate any of the passengers, the thousands of passengers. I don't know what exactly would be the number today, with an airline operating on an average 2,200 flights a day, and more than 60-70% of it completely disrupted. And the way it's been disrupted, I personally, incidentally, I myself am a victim of this. I had a flight 6C422 to be boarded at 8:40 today morning. So we reached the airport. Then they asked us to be there 2 hours prior. With all the disruption of yesterday, we thought maybe it's better to adhere to instructions. We reached there accordingly, and from 6:30 onwards, the chaos just never ended. The check-in, they showed us the on-time departure. All the boards and all the staff indicated an on-time departure, but come 8:15, 8:30, no movement whatsoever. At 8:40, they shift the time to 8:50. At 8:50, they shifted to 9:20, 9:30 thereafter. And then the cascade thereafter, complete silence from 10 o'clock to almost till 1400 hours. And at about 13:38 to be precise, an email is received saying that the flight is disrupted. The gentleman on the counter at the gate has no clue what is happening. And this, you can imagine the 200 odd passengers trying to move from Hyderabad to Dehradun by 422, and similarly another flight to Kolkata, and about 400 passengers. Complete chaos. This is just one gate. And you can imagine every other gate that is disrupted like this. And post 2 hours, when I asked them about, hey, yeah, you're supposed to provide certain refreshments and lunch and other things, what are you doing about it? And when I quoted the car, that is the first time the staff woke up and said, sir, otherwise they won't give a damn.
Yeah.
And then they catered for it by saying, go to a restaurant, one of the outlets within the airport, Farzi, to be precise, and 400 people rushed there. Now you can imagine what kind of chaos. Most the outlets in the airport cater for 30, 20, 40 passengers at most at a time. 400 people. So they serve the first 20 people and say, sorry, we ran out of food, give us another 20 minutes. Sorry, we ran out of food, give us another 20 minutes. So what exactly was happening? And this is an airline which is 19 years old, 20 years from its foundation. And they are one of the most profitable airlines in the world, not just India. And this is how they treat their passengers.
Yeah.
We say customer is king. Is he? No way.
Quite the harrowing time, and it's pitiable, the situation. I'm being joined on the phone by Sridhar. He's from Chennai. Sridhar, please talk to us. Are you also one of the thousands of passengers who has been stranded because of this chaos? Complete total responsibility of IndiGo. Sridhar, can you hear us? Okay, we'll try to get back to the caller. But coming back to you, Wing Commander, beg your pardon, coming back to you, Surjit Panesar. So situations such as this, no solutions to be found in the vicinity in the coming few days. How do you think the aviation sector in our country is going to be able to cater to this massive demand that continues to surge, keeping in mind the economy is growing?
Panesar sir, you're muted, sir. Panesar sir, I think you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, all right. There seems to be an audio issue. The same question to you, Wing Commander Manthena. A situation such as this, difficult times for the people. At the end of the day, you know, the airline will be penalized. I don't know. There is a panel that has been made. I don't know what action is going to be taken by them. In a few weeks or months' time, it is all going to be forgotten, because you know, you keep raising this issue on public platforms as well. But when these proceedings carry on for weeks and months together, and then it's, I mean, you don't really have a choice but to move on, because nobody is coming to you and compensating you and asking you about the kind of ordeal that you have faced, and basically you have to bear the brunt.
With your permission, through your channel, ma'am, I think three elements need to be addressed here very, very carefully. We cannot have a monopolistic situation by one airline which is dictating terms to the regulator as well as to the passenger. There is zero, what should I say? While we acknowledge the fact that it was rated as one of the best run airline also, but this shows callousness to a point where over a period of 2 years, they refuse to acknowledge a rule that is being regulation that is legitimately implemented in the country by the governing body, by the regulatory body, and it is in phases. And then now they come out and say they were unable to cope with it. How can they say that? Number one. Number two, every passenger who was been disrupted for his movement today obviously would have had a marriage to attend to, would have had a job to attend to, would have had a task to attend to. Nobody travels by air just for the heck of it. Or a holiday planned 1 year in advance. What is happening? How do you compensate, like you are very rightly asked? There is no compensation, ma'am. They have to be taken to task such that it never repeats again.
Okay.
That's the second part.
You know, I'm going to continue this conversation. I'll get more of these voices. Our phone lines are open. The numbers are flashing at the bottom of your screen. If you are one of the aggrieved passengers, or you know somebody, or near and dear one has faced this mammoth ordeal, and you want to speak about it, speak out against the airline for this gross negligence that has caused hundreds and thousands of Indian passengers, and in fact some of the foreign nationals as well, who were flying on this airline or were supposed to fly in the course of the last 4 days, well, do make a call. All right. If you have been anywhere near an airport today, you know and have possibly been a victim of the absurd number of flight cancellations by IndiGo across the country. As of today, the mayhem has hit crisis levels. Over 1,000 IndiGo flights have been cancelled nationwide today alone, on top of the 550 other cancellations yesterday. These cancellations have led to disruptions rippling across the country, leaving airports overcrowded, airline prices inflated and passengers frustrated. Hello and welcome to Explained by Newsx, and I'm Megha Sharma. Today we talk about something that thousands of passengers are desperate to know amidst this chaos. When your IndiGo flight gets cancelled in the middle of this mess, can you sue them in India? And can you actually get paid for this nightmare? Let's break it down step by step. First, let's us understand where a passenger stands legally. The rules that protect us have not been changed just because there is a crisis. The DGCA passenger charter is still in force. It says that if a flight is cancelled or delayed beyond 24 hours, you are entitled to a full refund plus fixed compensation. In such a case, a passenger is entitled to a compensation of 5,000 for shorter flights and 10,000 rupees for longer ones. In fact, if the cancellation happens with very little notice and the airline can't put you on another flight within 2 hours, the same compensation applies on top of meals, refreshments, and if needed, a hotel stay. An important doubt that keeps arising in the minds of the passengers is that the airline can cite operational incapabilities to get themselves out of murky waters, saving them from having to pay the passengers. However, such operational reasons do not automatically let the airline off the hook. Courts across the country have ruled again and again that crew shortages, poor rostering, or failure to anticipate new regulations are within the airline's control. This current crew crunch is exactly that, a planning failure, not caused by the nature like fog or an earthquake. If an airline accepts bookings, it must have crew to fly the planes. So here's the step-by-step path that thousands of passengers have already used successfully. You begin with a formal written complaint to the airline and send it to their grievance officer and nodal officer. For IndiGo, the email IDs are listed on the IndiGo website under customer support. Do this as soon as possible, definitely within 30 days, and keep a screenshot or PDF of the mail that you have sent. Mention your PNR, flight number, date, and the fact that the cancellation was caused by crew unavailability. The airline will almost certainly reply with the standard beyond our control letter and maybe offer a discount voucher. Now take the complaint to the government's Air Seva portal or app. The portal is solely dedicated to redressing the grievances of air passengers, especially in the case of flight delays or cancellations. In the rare case where the passengers' issues are still not solved, they can take their complaint to the Consumer Court. Thanks to the Consumer Protection Act, any individual can file a case against an airline for deficiency in service without hiring a lawyer, as long as the claim is under 2 crore rupees. The entire process is online at edakhil.nic.in, and the court fee is only a few hundred rupees. All you need to attach is your ticket to the cancellation message from the concerned airline, their rejection email, and receipts for any extra expenses, including hotel bills, food, the expensive last-minute ticket you had to buy on another airline, or proof that you missed an important event or work commitment. You can even add photographs or short videos of the airport chaos if you have them. Judgments from the last 2 years show exactly how this plays out in real life. Passengers have been awarded anything from 30,000 rupees to 50,000 rupees for their inconveniences, all the way up to 4 to 7 lakh when prepaid holidays or international connections were ruined. In several cases involving crew shortages or cascading cancellations, courts have added separate amounts for mental agony because the airline knew the problem was coming and still sold the tickets. But how long do you need to wait for the case to be heard? Well, most consumer courts are clearing these cases in 4 to 8 months, sometimes faster when the facts are as obvious as they stand today. And if a large group from the same cancelled flight flies together, the court treats it as one case and the total payout can run into several lakhs shared amongst everyone. So to sum it up, as a passenger, you can sue an airline and are more than likely to win the case, given your reasons are genuine. In case you are stranded at the airport after a cancelled flight or your baggage was lost, Start with a written complaint to the airline today. Follow it up on Air Seva. Then file a case in the Consumer Court online and justice will come to you.
यार सोच रहा हूँ पॉलिसी बाजार से टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस ले लेता हूँ ताकि मेरे बाद फैमिली को पैसों की कमी ना। तू भी ले ले
यार अभी तो यंग है यार, बाद में देखते हैं। आजा
पॉलिसी बाजार पर 0 GST के साथ अब 1 करोड़ का टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 400 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
मेहनत और समर्पण के प्रतीक अन्नदाताओं को डबल इंजन सरकार ने दी है नई पहचान। कर्मयोगी सरकार ने किया है वो दमदार काम जो दशकों तक था सिर्फ सपना। उत्कर्ष के इन 8 वर्षों में गन्ना किसानों को किया गया है रिकॉर्ड 2,90,000 करोड़ रुपए से अधिक गन्ना मूल्य का भुगतान। वर्ष 2007 से 2017 तक हुए भुगतान से यह 1,48,000 करोड़ रुपए है अधिक। माननीय मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ के नेतृत्व में पारदर्शिता और तकनीक से जुड़ी नई व्यवस्था ने बदली है गन्ना किसानों की तकदीर। वर्ष 2017 से अब तक 4 बार बढ़ाया गया है गन्ना समर्थन मूल्य। गन्ना पेराई सत्र 2025-26 में गन्ना किसानों को होगा 3,000 करोड़ रुपए से अधिक का अतिरिक्त लाभ। नई चीनी मिलें और बढ़ी क्रशिंग क्षमता ने असल मायनों में गन्ने की फसल को बनाया है ग्रीन गोल्ड। काम दमदार, डबल इंजन सरकार।
25 लाख का हॉस्पिटल बिल है, इतने पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे?
पैसों की चिंता आप मत कीजिए पापा।
मैम, सर का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस क्लेम अप्रूव हो गया है।
आप
पॉलिसी बाजार।
पॉलिसी बाजार पर 0 GST के साथ अब 1 करोड़ का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 550 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज़ का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा इतना सशक्त मजबूत जिससे आप बनेंगे पत्रकारिता की दुनिया का वो चमकता चेहरा जो दुनिया देखेगी और पसंद करेगी।
यार सोच रहा हूँ पॉलिसी बाजार से टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस ले लेता हूँ ताकि मेरे बाद फैमिली को पैसों की कमी ना। तू भी ले ले
यार अभी तो यंग है यार, बाद में देखते हैं। आजा
पॉलिसी बाजार पर 0 GST के साथ अब 1 करोड़ का टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 400 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
दिसंबर में हमारी 23वीं समिट के लिए 140 करोड़ भारतीय उत्सुकता पूर्वक आपका इंतजार कर रहे हैं।
Сделано в Индии, ощутимый. Вот не грех повторять то, что
in the workforce. Now, more and more women are giving financial independence a lot of priority, sometimes even more than marriage. They want to be financially independent. Women have now very much a very strong part of the workforce. The offices are also been made to be gender sensitive.
Women have always worked. It's
Yes.
just that post-World War II that women came out in the workforce, which is paid workforce. In the paid workforce, yes, there is always the first time that these imbalances are worked out.
Women at work, and the solution for more women at work is not going to happen
till such time that the care economy structurally gets addressed, which means that other than X number of days or weeks around the time that a child is born, caregiving has to be much more equally shared in society, in families, and between men and women.
We're not waiting for someone else to rescue us. They're more concerned about keeping themselves stronger health-wise and applying it to them protecting themselves. They don't want to wait, for a Prince Charming to come and save them. But they are their own savior.
So what we women want at these times on Newsx.
Would Russia support India in the event of India taking any action against terrorist bases in Pakistan?
We strongly condemn terrorism, and we know that
Hello and welcome. You're watching Newsx and I'm Megha Sharma. India and Russia have reinforced their long-standing strategic partnership with a series of key defense and economic agreements signed in the 23rd Annual Summit in New Delhi, along with a strong joint statement asserting that their ties remain resilient to external pressure. In fact, there has been Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Putin who have had a bilateral meeting. After the bilateral meeting, there were the two statements that were released. There were speeches that were made by the two heads of governments where they spoke about the economic cooperation plan of 2030 of building resilient, sustainable and balanced trade trade initiatives in a bid to ensure that India-Russia trade and investment increases to $100 billion by 2030. There have been a number of other agreements, MOUs that have been signed, 19 to be precise. They have spoken about investments from India, particularly a urea plant and a pharmaceutical plant being set up in Russia. There have been memorandums that have been signed with regards to the agricultural produce to be exported to Russia in large numbers. There has been a memorandum of understanding that has been signed with regards to the maritime goals and ambitions of India and the help of Russia in achieving all of them. They have spoken extensively about the civil nuclear cooperation that both countries will keep working towards for clean and sustainable energy, and several of those MOUs and agreements and intergovernment pacts that have been signed today. So let's open up this discussion. I'm being joined by my colleague, by my panelists over here. Let's get them one by one. Ambassador Veena Sikri is on the telecast with me, and Ambassador Sikri, I do want to understand from you, the number one question, and that has also made global headlines, about President Putin's statement in his speech right after the bilateral meeting, where he says that Russia continues with its supply of fuel to India, which includes coal, gas and oil. That has captured the imagination of global media. Keeping in mind there is history involved, heavy tariffs imposed on two of the oil giants from Russia that has dissuaded Indian oil companies from importing more oil from Russia, even when Russia provides those discounted oils. How do we move forward from here? Are there any arrangements that India and Russia may come up with to insulate them from the tariffs that have been imposed? All right, the same question for you, Joyita, about oil. Of course, that garners maximum headlines. We saw the two oil giants from Russia, their executives were over here. Rosneft executive was over here, while no such statement has been given in the joint statement that was released by India and Russia after the meeting got over.
Well, the thing is, you see, a lot of things, if you go through the joint statement, a lot of things have not been mentioned.
and a lot of, I would say, anodyne statements have also been made. But when it comes to oil, there is one whole section on energy security that the joint statement is talking about. But then India has to be pragmatic, you know, and the whole idea is the same thing that some European country is doing, maybe Germany or Hungary. India's companies are being sanctioned for doing exactly the same. So I would say that, you know, I mean, the only way, how do you beat these sanctions? The whole point is that how do you ensure that your tankers that come, I think they will have to find certain loopholes and try to ensure that this thing does not, I mean, the US does not really come down even harder on us. But the fact is that more than Russia, I think India will have to take the case to the Europeans, to UK, to US, and basically point out how unjust everything all this is.
Okay. Okay, Sharad Kohli also, you know, it was also interesting to note that right before the bilateral meeting happened between both the heads of the governments, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to the press for a few minutes, and so did President Putin. Prime Minister Modi started off with picking the Ukraine issue. He spoke about how India is neutral. He started by saying India is not neutral. India bats for peace. This amidst growing pressure from European nations, from the West, telling India that it continues to be quote unquote neutral, that it needs to take a stance, it needs to persuade President Putin when he arrives in New Delhi to stop the war against Ukraine.
Good evening, Megha. Good evening to my fellow panelists and Newsx viewers. I think the statement given by Prime Minister Modi is a very strategic one, and you know, a very thoughtful one, because when he says we are not neutral, because that's what some of the people were thinking, and they were accusing India that you are too neutral. You know, you try and get along with whatever you want to. You do diplomacy of convenience and so on and so forth. So he said we are not neutral. We do take sides, but we take the side of peace. So India wants peace. So that was a direct message for Russia and Ukraine to settle the dispute between themselves. Well, India has constantly been saying that for the last almost 3.5 years now. And that was a very clear message, I think, for the Western media as well. As for the Western media is concerned, I think it's very closely watching what's the bonhomie between Prime Minister Modi and President Putin. You know, the picture in the car is for the second time that the two are being seen driving together. I'm sure, especially the American friends, they are guessing as to what's happening there. In fact, I'm referring to only one American friend for that matter, and some of his party colleagues. So they are imagining as to what's happening between the two of them. What's the confidential talk which doesn't come out of the car? So, but I can tell you, Megha, which I'm sure I saw you being there at Hyderabad House today during the day. But I can tell you, what has not come out of the declaration, beyond these pacts and agreements signed on fertilizers, on pharma factory, cross-border investments, defense deals, beyond all these agreements, I can tell you with conviction that there are certain ways and means which have been discussed to get past these sanctions. Well, over 17,000 of them on Russia, and President Putin remains unfazed. You know, his composure, his posture remains the same. Russian economy is still $2 trillion plus. It's been growing at a pace of about 4 to 5%, although there are conflicting reports, but it has been growing decently. And the very fact, Megha, that he made the statement in the beginning itself that India continues to buy energy from us, I think that was a very, very categorical message to the West that you may do what you want to. Apart from some of the companies, private companies like Reliance or whatever, who were dealing with Rosneft, I think the remaining oil continues. And why this statement? Because the oil which was being imported, crude which was being imported for export, that may have stopped. But the crude which was meant for consumption in India, and India, 86 to 87% of our crude needs are being imported. So that continues the way it is. Only the export bit, because the sanction applies, Megha, on the companies when you are exporting. there was a lot of crude coming into India where diesel and petrol and aviation fuel was being made out of the refinery in Jamnagar.
Yeah.
But then the oil which is coming for internal consumption is very much on. That's the message that President Putin wanted to convey, that it continues. Some percentage of that may have stopped for that matter. And I'm sure there were ways and means discussed to get past these sanctions. And a very important aspect, Mega, that President Putin said in his opening remark that America itself is importing energy from Russia at this point of time. So are many European nations. So he was referring to this hypocrisy that you're trying to impose sanctions on those companies, but your own countries, your own companies are still importing that oil. So what happens to that? I just fail to understand the Western approach on sanctions when from day one, from the day war started in in February 2022, most of the European nations are still importing energy. So what happens to that? I just fail to understand what is this oil talk all about when you can't do it yourself. You want the rest of the world to be sanctioned and rest of the world to not to be doing it. This is hypocrisy. And if there are any heartburns which are being caused, Mega, in the Western world by seeing the bonhomie between President Putin and Prime Minister Modi, I must convey this message from my end that any head of the government coming to India would be greeted in the same manner. If tomorrow anybody comes from Europe or President Trump comes here, he will be giving a similar welcome. Prime Minister Modi has got a heart-to-heart relationship. He's very quick in building a personal rapport with the person, and I think that's normal. So what's the talk about bonhomie? This that they are getting very cozy, they are friends. You're getting into a different group. This is a different. All these talks of groupism, all these talks of having a different alliance. India remains neutral. India remains non-aligned. We are friends to America. We are friends to Russia. Russia-India friendship dates back to 1955. From Avarahu Raj Kapoor's song to 1955 till S-400 imports in India. I think the India-Russia friendship is not just 25 years old when President Putin took the reins.
Yeah.
Not when Prime Minister Modi knew him for the first time or had a rapport with him. It dates back to 1950s. So I think India-Russia alliance cannot be questioned by the Western media at any level, Mega.
Okay, let's hear a Russian perspective as well. I have with me Dr. Sergey Dvoryanov. And Dr. Sergey, what are the key takeaways according to you from this 23rd annual India-Russia summit? Also talking about particularly, the key focus, the main focus of this summit, this meeting has been about how to increase trade and investment between both countries.
Yes, namaste, good evening. Thank you for the invitation. First of all, I'm right now in New Delhi. I came with a Russian delegation and a lot of companies and representatives for different fields and the direction of business here. And I can also feel some very unique spirit of unification and the goodwill between our nations. And come to the point about the position of India to be neutral or not neutral. If we will remember about Mahabharata and the big conflict between Pandavas and Kauravas on Kurukshetra, it was one side, Pandavas was on the side of Dharma, of justice, and other side was the injustice side. And we cannot be neutral to the justice, first of all. Right now, we're in deep conflict with, not with Ukraine, with the western part of the world, which start with a proxy war against Russia. Not only against Russia. We know this visit of Vladimir Putin was very well organized and designed by both countries, both sides. First of all, when Donald Trump started with his statement about he will start with a trade war against India because India purchased Russian oil and gas during our conflict with the western part of the world. He started with this trade war. It was a statement of trade war, and we saw that national security Ajit Doval immediately came to Moscow and started to negotiate and to prepare this forum. After that, Jaishankar, Minister of External Affairs, also came to Moscow. And we understand that we have our interests. It's not only economic interests. And I would just remind that during the hard times of India, when Western civilization put pressure, first of all, UK government was not happy that India started with this ahimsa, with this non-violent movement of Mahatma Gandhi, and Joseph Stalin. He met before his death the bureaucrat. The last bureaucrat whom he met was Indian ambassador. And he told and promised to Indian ambassador that USSR will support India. And we provide grain, we provide wheat, we provide food to India, and we protect India. And right now, India also is the time to reply. We can see that India, first, of course, pragmatic interests exist. Yes, India take care about because it's mainly agriculture economy, about the farmers and about oil and gas and energy. Everything is perfectly fine. But at the same time, we understand that we cannot be slaves of the Western pressure, Western civilization. We have our rights, multipolar world. That's why, of course, in this agenda, we have similarity. We are traditional civilization.
Okay.
Yesterday,
all right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Let me also get in Andrew later. Andrew, do you agree to what Dr. Sergey says, particularly when this statement was made? Of course, talking about President Putin saying that we follow the international rules-based order enshrined in the United Nations Charter to protect the democratic multipolar world that we now live in. How do you think this visit of President Putin is being perceived by the West, by United States of America, and by Europe?
I think there's a great deal of confusion. In some quarters, concern. I don't share those concerns. Anytime we mention this thing called the rules-based international order, which was cooked up by the Canadians and the Brits and the Americans at Bretton Woods in 1944 and globalized when the Soviet Union was confined finally to the dustbin of history on Christmas Day 1991, that's gone. That's gone. The whole point of a rupee-ruble exchange mechanism is to circumvent that American-based international monetary order. The entire trade, the WTO, the G20, these are all nostalgic vestiges of a time that is going away. And everybody from Moscow to New Delhi to Ottawa to Washington to Canberra is trying to figure out what comes next. Trump thinks it's going to be a hub and spoke world with the United States at the center and everybody engaged in a subordinate bilateral relationship with the United States. Ain't going to happen. Other people think that organizations like BRICS, for example, are the wave of the future. Good luck with that. There's no agreement between India and China within BRICS about anything. That's not going to be the replacement. So we are, as one very famous philosopher put it once upon a time, we are in a time of monsters. We are caught between a past which isn't yet fully dead and a future which is yet to be fully born, and we are struggling mightily. And all of the confusion, all of the carrying on, all of the bloviating, all of the nostalgic whining about a past that we'd like to return to, or this glorious future which is just around the corner, these are symptoms of a deep, deep malaise which is connected to this moment of transition. I see the relationship between India and Russia not as the next natural step going back to 1955. I see this as something quite new and distinct. India is trying to strike, legitimately strike a posture of strategic autonomy, which is different than neutral and non-aligned from the past. Now, this is important. And there's two ways you can do that. You can buy some of your military kit from the Russians and some from the West, the US or France, and you can try to strike that balance, or you can indigenize production. And part of the statement that came out of this bilateral meeting is that the Russians are going to help India to indigenize its defense industry. If you're truly going to be strategically autonomous, you need your own military kit and you need to produce it at home, and it needs to suit your strategic purposes and not be beholden to anybody's fragile supply chains, the Russians, or a politically undependable supply chains, the Americans. That's not the route to go.
Okay.
To me, that's the most important takeaway from this meeting.
Okay. I also do want to understand from you, while there was quite the hype created on whether there are going to be some big ticket announcements made with regards to defense trade between both countries, joint production, transfer of technology. The S-500s was being talked about, the Sukhoi 57s were talked about, the air to the surface to air missiles, the S-400s, 10,000 crore rupee deal that at this point of time is in the process of being completed. But nothing of the sort was really made a mention of, except for the passing comment by President Trump about how Russia continues to support India in its Make in India defense initiative and how it will continue to militarily support India as it has in the previous several decades as well. And while there was already a disclaimer that was shared by during the backgrounder meetings that there is nothing related to defense that is going to be discussed or announced, it is only and only focused on economic cooperation 2030 plan program that has been, the roadmap has been laid out now. Do you think it is, a defense deal would have just made things even better for both countries?
Well, frankly, Megha, no. Okay, definitely not. That's not the case here. Because you see, I mean, we cannot have a knee-jerk reaction when it comes to defense, and particularly when in a situation when there is major supply chain problem, there is supply chain disruption that is happening when it comes to, because of the Russia-Ukraine war. We cannot go and stick our neck out and commit to anything, buying anything from Russia which we cannot ensure will be delivered. Say for example, all this talk about this nuclear submarine that will be the 2000, it was hyped as India has signed a deal with Russia about supplying, about nuclear submarine tech and all, but it's actually a 2019 deal, and one of the reasons why it has not materialized till date is because of supply chain problems. And I would say maybe in certain sections of the media there was a lot of hype about what are we going to witness when it comes to any defense deal between India and Russia. In quarters that know what is going on, there was absolute complete clarity that there is no scope for any defense progress in defense arena, and for several reasons. Su-57 we have a problem with. I said it on Newsx yesterday also that we were the ones who rejected Su-57 sometime in 2018, 2019. There are lots of problems with that, and Su-57 some people are talking about stopgap arrangements, stopgap squadrons. It does not work like that, and that is the reason why we have announced our own indigenization program when it comes to 5th generation fighter. So you see there is a problem there. S-500 is not happening primarily because of the fears of sanction. S-400 we are not going to do it, but yes, when it comes to, say for example, rifle manufacturing and all, that is going on in certain, I would say in Uttar Pradesh there is a factory over there. So whatever defense stuff we are looking at right now, these are very small, and if you have noticed that paragraph in the joint statement, it is talking about manufacturing spare parts and manufacturing. That is what it's all about, that is what it has come down to. And as I mentioned yesterday as well, our dependence on Russian weapons, we have brought it down to 36%. Okay, so we are also trying to wean ourselves away from Russian weapons. So I don't think there is much future when it comes to Russia, India defense relations, not in the immediate future, maybe in the long run.
Again, there could be a number of reasons, keeping in mind that we our strategic agreement with the United States of America is in a limbo right now. A lot of conversations, back and forth negotiations taking place. India also need to step back and think. So all all these speculations, all these conversations, murmurs are taking place. All right, Shashwat Kohli, before I wrap this up, again, very specific questions for you. When we see this massive, I think the largest delegation that President Putin has come with this time around. There was a business summit that was started yesterday, the India-Russia Business Forum. It was addressed by the Indian Commerce Minister and his Russian counterpart, and it went on until today, and the closing remarks were made by President Putin and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. That goes on to show how important a pillar it is, a new one added in, a new dimension added in India-Russia bilateral relationship.
Absolutely, Megha. I'd like to make a quick comment. I'll tend to differ with Joyita about the defense, that they don't have a future there in India-Russia defense deal. Well, I think for two reasons it was not glaringly mentioned there. One, because of the sanction clouds, which are always there. And second, these defense deals, they go even out of such pacts. That goes year round. We recently had a defense pact a few weeks ago. So I think that is an ongoing thing. It need not wait for this kind of a summit. Coming back to your question on the economic cooperation, I think we've got about $70 billion of bilateral trade. It is very skewed because of the energy imports, about $5 billion of Indian exports.
Yeah.
Very limited set of goods that we're exporting from here. I think there is a tremendous scope, and we see there's going to be agriculture produce going there. There's scope on textiles, footwear, on engineering goods, marine products. There's a lot of potential which India can send there, and with a Russian population of about 15 crore, there is enough of goods that India can supply, and the Russians will really like the quality,
Right.
and they will like the origin of those products. So I'm sure there is a lot of scope there, which was discussed. And this skewed bilateral trade, there is an effort to set it right, to try and get the balance done. For me, the biggest takeaway, Megha, is 96% of the India-Russia exports are going to happen in local currency.
Yeah.
For me, that's the biggest takeaway, because that's going to reduce the dependence on the I'm sorry to say, on the silly dollar.
Absolutely right. And in front of your screens, those are in fact visuals of President Putin finally departing from the Rashtrapati Bhavan, and from there he is headed to the airport, to the Palam airport, from where he is going to depart from Delhi, which concludes his 2-day long visit to India. It has been successful, it has been substantive, and it goes on to further build momentum on a new chapter of India-Russia bilateral relationship. I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast, and thanks for watching Newsx.
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर, या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज़ का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा इतना सशक्त, मजबूत, जिससे आप बनेंगे पत्रकारिता की दुनिया का वो चमकता चेहरा जो दुनिया देखेगी और पसंद करेगी।
There have been thousands of passengers across the country that have been facing turmoil. There is chaos and confusion at airports across the country, whether it is Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru, Chennai, Kolkata, Ahmedabad, Pune. all of these areas, all of these regions, all of these cities are facing a logjam. Why? Because IndiGo is at fault. It did not comply with the crew duty limitation orders that had been issued by the Directorate General of the Civil Aviation. It was implemented 1 month ago. There was a 2-year preparation time that had been given to all domestic airlines in the country to adhere by them. But IndiGo refused to do so. It put a hiring freeze for its cabin crew and captains and its pilots. It combined the leaves that had to be granted to the pilots for recovery period alongside the days, the weekly offs or the duration of time that is required for a pilot to recoup and recover and get back to duty after having flown the requisite number of hours. These changes had been made by the DGCA keeping in mind aviation safety to ensure that there is no risk of accidents mid-air when pilots are flying, when the crew is on board, when passengers are flying. There have been all sorts of very confused sort of shrugging of responsibility. Those are the kind of responses that IndiGo chairmanship had gone ahead and made. That was on Wednesday. If I'll just like to go through these, these flimsy excuses that IndiGo came out and made in front of the public, talking about how these anomalies, these delays and massive cancellations was because of some quote-unquote minor technical glitch, and because it was linked to the schedule changes that happened because of the winter season. Then IndiGo goes on to blame adverse weather conditions across the country that led to these cancellations. About, I think 70, 80, 90% of their flights have been cancelled, they have been grounded. It goes on then puts the blame on the congestion in the aviation system, and it goes on and finally says that the FDTL, the flight duty time limitation rules that had been implemented by the DGCA were not followed, and it brushes its hands off to taking the responsibility that it did not do the requisite number of hirings. It put a freeze on the salaries of the pilots, of the crew members. It just completely washes off its hands of this entire problem till it escalates up until today. There have been flights from major aviation sectors, whether it is Mumbai or Delhi or Bengaluru, all the departure flights of IndiGo across the country stand cancelled. I'm going to take this up, and we need to question IndiGo. We would like IndiGo's CEO to come out and make a statement, own up to this huge mistake, this blunder that has been committed, that has led to the problems that people are facing, the commuters are facing, businesses have been lost. In fact, there is utter chaos and confusion. Flights at this point of time, even if passengers are looking to take an alternative flight, those flights are costing you about 80 to 85 to 88,000. I mean, it's unfathomable prices of flight tickets. So it's the consumer that is stranded. So far, we have not gotten any intimation of whether IndiGo is going to be reimbursing these people, and has it decided to rebook their flights to take them to their respective destinations. Visuals on your screens tell the story, narrate the entire story. Look at those airline counters at the airports, where people are just gathered in large numbers asking questions, and those representatives of IndiGo really trying hard to answer the questions does not seem like they are getting any conclusive responses, any responses that will satisfy them that will ameliorate their situation. That's the problem that the country is facing right now. It's a complete standstill is what it is that the nation has to bear because of the singular fault of an airline, the most successful as it claims to be, the most profitable as it claims to be. 60% of air traffic operations are run by IndiGo up until now, and it refused to adhere to the DGCA orders. It thought it could just wing it. Well, here it is. Here is how you have penny pinched. You have tried to save money by not hiring people, by not increasing their salaries, by using non-poaching arrangements, and the result is for all to see. Okay, let's start off our conversation. I am right now being joined by my reporter Shahid Ansari. Shahid Ansari is in Mumbai. He's at the Mumbai airport. Shahid, what's the situation on the ground right now?
देखिए, अभी मैं मुंबई इंटरनेशनल टर्मिनल 2 के पास में मौजूद हूँ, जहाँ पे इंडिगो ने अपने काउंटर खोल रखे हैं लोगों के लिए कि जिनके फ्लाइट कैंसिल हुई है, रिशेड्यूल हुई है या इस तरह की जो भी समस्याएं हैं, और आगे के लिए जो है काउंटर खोल रखे हैं। लेकिन अहम बात यह है कि क्या इन सब के बीच जो जनता की, जो आवाम की समस्याएं थी, क्या वो समस्याएं दूर हुई? सवाल यही है। तो उनका जवाब यही है कि नहीं। और ये समस्याएं पिछले 4 दिन से चल रही थी, और उन समस्याओं की सबसे बड़ी जो जीती जागती मिसाल है वो आप देख सकते हैं कि अभी भी इंडिगो का जो काउंटर है, अभी भी बाहर कम से कम 20-25 लोग खड़े हुए हैं। दिन में यही तादाद जो है तकरीबन 300 से 400 थी, और इंडिगो के जो काउंटर है यहाँ महज 2 लोग थे जो इनकी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर रहे थे। तो ये लोग अभी भी जो है खड़े हैं, लोग काफी देर से खड़े हैं, और हर एक की अपनी अपनी समस्या है। किसी के टिकट कैंसल, उसके साथ साथ जो है रीशेड्यूल, फिर दूसरी फ्लाइट को लेकर, इस तरह के लोग जो है यहाँ पे मौजूद हैं। अब अगर देखिए दूसरे इलाकों में या दूसरे शहरों में बात करें, मुंबई हो, अहमदाबाद हो, पुणे हो, नागपुर हो, बंगलौर हो, इन सारे जगहों पे जो है जो समस्याएं हैं वो ज्यों का त्यों अभी भी बरकरार है। अब देखिए, इंडिगो ने जो इन सब चीजों को लेकर कहा था महज 48 घंटे में ये सब कुछ सॉल्व हो जाएगा, तो वो तो सॉल्व हुआ नहीं, बल्कि वो समस्याएं और बढ़ती गई। क्योंकि जब 1000 से ज्यादा फ्लाइट कैंसिल होगी तो जाहिर सी बात है कि यात्रियों की तादाद जो है 1000 में नहीं बल्कि लाखों में पहुंच जाएगी, और फिर एक साथ जो है इनको इनके समस्याओं को हल करना इतना आसान नहीं हो सकता। हालांकि इंडिगो ने जो है इन सब के बीच में जो है 2-3 बातें कही थी, जिनमें से मौसम की खराबी, स्टाफ की कमी और टेक्निकल इश्यूज, ये इन्होंने ये हवाला दिया था। लेकिन उन सब के बाद भी डीजीसीए ने पहले जो है वजह बताओ नोटिस जारी की, फिर एक इमरजेंसी बैठक हुई, फिर डीजीसीए ने वो कानून जो है अपने वापस ले लिए। तो इन सब के बीच में अभी भी अगर समस्याओं की बात करें, जो जनता है उनकी समस्याएं, जो पैसेंजर है, अभी भी जो है समस्याएं दूर नहीं हुई, क्योंकि अभी भी लोग यहाँ खड़े हुए हैं, और हम इन लोगों से भी बातचीत करेंगे। क्या दिक्कतें हैं, कहाँ जाना था आपको?
मुझे बैंगलोर की फ़्लाइट थी, लेकिन ना कैंसिल हो चुका है वो फ़्लाइट। एक्चुअली हमारे पास पहले मैसेज आया कि बैंगलोर का फ़्लाइट है वो कैंसिल हो चुका है। उसके बाद आता है कि आप लोग ये लगेज ये चेक कर सकते हैं। तो उसके बाद हम लोग सोचे कि ठीक हो गया, तो हम लोग इधर आए तो देखा कि फुल कैंसिल। बस यही चल रहा है। अभी पता नहीं
लगेज मिला आपका?
लगेज हमने चेक इन नहीं किया। अच्छा। हम इधर आ गए काउंटर में, तो अभी तक लगे हुए हैं, पता नहीं क्या करेंगे। अभी तक कोई डिसीजन हुआ नहीं है, लेकिन क्योंकि हमारा कनेक्टिंग फ्लाइट है बैंगलोर से लंकावी इंडिगो। अच्छा। हाँ, 4 बजे। तो अभी समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि हम
एक जो है गलती की वजह से बाकी जो कनेक्टिविटी रही वो पूरी तरह से उस पर इफेक्ट पड़ा।
पूरा इफेक्ट। अभी हम लोग पता नहीं क्या करेंगे, अभी सोच रहे क्या करते हैं, देखते हैं। अभी काउंटर में अभी आए हैं।
कितनी देर से आप यहाँ खड़े हैं?
हम लोग आए हैं 6 बजे, शाम 6 बजे से खड़े हैं, क्योंकि हमारा बेंगलोर का फ्लाइट 8:45 को थी। तो बस यही है, अब देखते हैं क्या होता है, क्योंकि हमें क्या टेंशन है कि हमें कनेक्टिंग फ्लाइट है फ्रॉम बैंगलोर टू लंकावी। हाँ, सुबह 4 बजे का। हाँ।
और भी लोगों से बातचीत करते हैं जो यहाँ मौजूद हैं। आप कहाँ जाने वाले थे और आपको क्या दिक्कत आई?
मैं बेंगलोर जाना है। माई फ्लाइट इज कैंसिल। आई रिसीव मैसेज आफ्टर कमिंग टू द एयरपोर्ट।
आपको पहले नहीं पता चला? एयरपोर्ट आने के बाद पता चला कि आपकी फ्लाइट कैंसिल हुई है?
एयरपोर्ट आने के बाद पता चला फ्लाइट, क्योंकि कोई मैसेज नहीं आया मेरे को अभी फ्लाइट कैंसिल है।
ये सबसे बड़ी कमी रही है इंडिगो की कि इन सब के बीच में भी जो है उन्होंने कम्युनिकेशन का जो जरिया रहा है वो पूरी तरह से खत्म कर दिया, ताकि जो पैसेंजर हैं उनसे कम्युनिकेट अगर वो करते तो संभव है कि बहुत सारे लोग एयरपोर्ट नहीं आते और ये समस्याएं जो है उतनी नहीं होती। आपको सर क्या दिक्कत आई, कहाँ जाने वाले थे और क्या समस्याएं हैं?
मैं तो हैदराबाद जाने वाला
जी।
भाई आज फ्लाइट चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा है, इसीलिए मैं काउंटर में पूछने आया था।
आपकी फ्लाइट कब की थी जब हैदराबाद आपको जाना था? वो कब की फ्लाइट थी आपकी?
हम तो हैदराबाद तो भाई बस आया हूँ अभी।
अच्छा।
फिर हमारा स्टाफ जा रहे हैं केनिया एयरलाइंस में।
अच्छा।
उनको जाने के बाद मेरे को जाना है हैदराबाद। तो अभी वहाँ बोर्ड में तो डोमेस्टिक दिख रही है।
हाँ।
245 को है।
हाँ।
यहाँ पर हम ऑनलाइन चेक करने से नहीं मिल रहा।
अच्छा।
तो उसको इसलिए इधर काउंटर में आया पूछने के लिए कि टिकट मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा क्या।
आपको सर कहाँ जाना था, क्या दिक्कत है?
I'm traveling to Chennai.
चेन्नई।
Yeah.
क्या परेशानी हुई आपको?
See, I was traveling from Amsterdam yesterday, so I reached the Mumbai airport at 2 o'clock in the morning, and my first flight was cancelled at 6:30. They said it was moved to 8:30.
अभी के क्या सिचुएशन है सुबह से और अभी?
And now
current situation क्या है?
While my reporter is talking to those stranded passengers, I am getting a phone call from yet another aggrieved passenger. His name is Srinivas. Srinivas, where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm not an aggrieved passenger, Megha. I'm calling from Hyderabad. I was at a, I just wanted to tell you, right? I mean, basically, I had an experience today, right? I was at a data science summit in Hyderabad, and several speakers, who were supposed to travel to Hyderabad, they all canceled their flights, and very much, it was extremely, the organizers were running helter-skelter to fill in for the, people who were not able to make it to Hyderabad, right? And some people joined on the video con, etc., etc. My only, obviously, IndiGo being the largest carrier in India, carries the maximum number of passengers daily in India, they have to be held accountable, right? Obviously, they didn't get their act together in terms of filling their rosters and hiring new crew members, both in terms of pilots and first officers. They must be held accountable, and they owe more than an apology to the nation, right? I mean, this is kind of a loss of faith, if you will, right? Across the board, more than close to about 2,000 flights cancelled. I mean, it's a real shame, right? And I hope the DGCA will get to the root of the problem. They will investigate thoroughly, and they will penalize IndiGo to the extent possible. That's all. Thank you.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. IndiGo needs to be apologizing to the public instead of making these very flimsy excuses that their boss came out and made that statement. I don't know if was he the CEO, some foreign national who has been appointed by IndiGo as the CEO. Now here the excuses that have been given is just laughable. IndiGo 2 days ago on Wednesday actually came out and said that these problems that are arising are because of some minor technical glitch. Then it goes on to say that it is because winter. Therefore, there are these schedule changes that have happened, and there are some adjustments that are to be made, and therefore this is led to this 5 flight delays and cancellations. Then IndiGo goes on to say that this is because of the adverse weather conditions that the country is facing. Then it blames the congestion in the aviation system, and then it says that there are some minor FDTL, the flight duty time limitation orders, the rules that the DGCA has implemented a month ago, they were not able to inculcate these rules. They were not able to implement these rules in their rosters and so on, and these things. So that's shameful. That's shocking. The fact that you are the biggest domestic airline in the country, you have the hugest revenues that you earn from your flights that ply all across the country. In fact, your aircraft and your crew are overutilized, they are overworked. You fly many late nights, many wee-hour flights. Your high frequency network does not match the number of crew members, the number of pilots that you at this point of time have hired. That alone is the problem. You've tried to pinch pennies. You have given your airline executives 100% hikes in your salaries. Those are record unprecedented hikes in the past few months and years, while your pilots have witnessed hike pay freezes. The pay freezes that what they have witnessed is and then you're not, and you have put a freeze on hiring. and you are shortchanging these pilots. You are buying back their leaves by giving them money, asking them to work and reduce the number of leaves that they're supposed to take after they finish their stipulated period of maximum number of hours that they can fly over the course of the days. I'm going to get my colleague, my reporter Renik, who is in Kolkata. Renik, what's the situation on the ground? If you could speak to some people and tell us what is this ordeal that they have been going through.
हाँ एकदम ही देखिए, मैं इस वक्त मौजूद हूँ कोलकाता एयरपोर्ट में और कोलकाता एयरपोर्ट का तस्वीर आप देखिए कि बहुत सारे लोग इधर आए हैं, इधर वेट कर रहे हैं, मगर उनका जो फ्लाइट है वो कैंसिल हो चुका है। मैडम कहाँ जा रहे थे आप?
मैं बेसिकली हैदराबाद जा रही हूँ।
तो कब कैंसिल हुआ, आपको कब इन्फॉर्मेशन आया?
बेसिकली मैं इधर आके पता चला कि हाँ कैंसिल हुआ।
तो इंडिगो की तरफ से कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन इससे पहले दिया गया था?
नहीं, कोई मैसेज और मेल वगैरह कुछ नहीं दिया।
तो अभी क्या इंडिगो की तरफ से कहा जा रहा है?
मैं तो अभी वापस जा रही हूँ क्योंकि अभी कोई फ्लाइट नहीं है, आज भी कोई फ्लाइट नहीं है, कल भी नहीं है। तो लेट्स सी कब
क्या रिफंड दे रहा है और रिशेड्यूल किया जा रहा है?
वो तो बोला है कि रिफंड कर देगा, बट आई डोंट नो, मैं बुक नहीं किया तो वो जो बुक किया मिल जाएगा, मिल जाना चाहिए।
एकदम ही, और भी बहुत सारे लोग इधर मौजूद है। सब कहाँ जा रहे थे?
Pardon? Where are you saying?
Where are you going?
I'm going to Delhi.
So now, what is the situation inside?
All cancelled flights. All flights cancelled.
All right, I'll let Renik be. He's speaking to people on the ground. I'm also being joined by Mr. T.S. Singh Deo. He's the former Deputy Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh. Mr. Deo, what do you make of this entire situation? The country has been held to ransom.
It is unfortunate. One aspect is that the passengers have been brought to great discomfort and great inconvenience. There has been no communication in time from the flight companies. They should have let the passengers know well in advance if the flight was to be cancelled. Refund, etc. is another issue which is, I think, less important, because I'm sure they would be having to do the refund, etc. or book the next flight. But not to tell them in advance, that is one unfortunate thing. The other aspect is that the government should have been wise to this. They have a lot of experience now, more than 11 years in governance. And when you're making regulatory changes, there has to be a process of consultation, and you reach an agreement, you reach a consensus with the companies, and then you impose those conditions. Apparently, the experience of the government falls lacking here. They should have not allowed the passengers.
These rules, these flight duty rules, the limitation rules had been announced by the government. Preparation time of 2 years has been given. It was implemented a month ago. In fact, do you think this is a way that airlines are sort of arm twisting the aviation regulatory authority? That listen, we really won't do anything about it, no matter if you give us 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and if you implement these rules, this is the chaos that is going to incur, this is the chaos that is going to happen, and it's nothing really that you can do about it but to extend your, but to put extensions, but to put rules like these in abeyance, what the DGCA has had to do now.
That is what I am trying to say, that with the experience in governance, you are supposed to be aware that these sort of situations will come around through a process of consultation. I doubt anybody would be so irresponsible as to initially say that we are on board, and once the rules are implemented, then they rebel against them. I don't think that is really possible. So there seems to be a lack of communication between the government, the DGCA, and the companies who are flying the airlines.
So why do you think only IndiGo, after the implementation of these rules, of the crew duty limitation rules that have been announced and then implemented by the regulatory authority, why is it that IndiGo has been singled out? Why are other airlines not having the same problem that IndiGo is?
IndiGo may be a low-cost airline, and if you regulate the number of flying hours beyond a rational point, then you will be having to keep extra staff, which will add to the cost.
Exactly.
And eventually, who pays? It is the customer who eventually has to pay. Neither the government nor is the airline going to take that extra cost. So there must have been some such reason. I am not really fully aware of the intricacies. But what I meant exactly was that these things are worked out in advance so that compliance is ensured. You know, you don't leave any ground, any space for such an ugly situation
So
to
now
come
what should
around.
the government
I am
do?
to fly
Now what
tomorrow.
should the DGCA and the Ministry of Civil Aviation do? Listen, we have given you 2 years of preparation time to pull your socks, hire the requisite number of people, because we don't want flights to be at risk. We don't want any aviation safety mishaps to happen. We want our pilots and crew to be well rested. You cannot have their weekly offs and their leaves all combined together. You cannot buy back their leaves just by paying them money and forcing them to work simply because you are giving them this incentive of money in exchange for the leaves that they can forego. If all of this has not been implemented in 2 years, what should the DGCA do right now?
It is unimaginable that any rules which are rational and acceptable would be challenged, you know. They would also be losing out. They are losing out on passenger. They are losing out on credit. They are losing out on, let us say, even profitability. And have we heard of any accidents due to this? I haven't. So is the regulation beyond acceptable aspect? The other aspect is the monopolization. Mentioned that the other one, and I don't know what the competition level is a company being forced to fall in line. I really don't know anything about that. I really don't have any responsible information. But whenever you allow monopolies to come into play, you know, you have a open economy system. Many people vouch for that. That is the way to go ahead. And then when you create such monopolies, it is very easy for that particular individual company or association to then put pressure like this. So all round, you have to see that balances are created. Reasonable checks are there, and consultation is there beforehand, before you allow such a situation to come around.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir, for joining me.
Thank you.
And sharing your views. I am also being joined by Dilip Chirian. Dilip, rules that are very welcome that have been made by the DGCA. When you talk about provide the weekly rest period for pilots, it has been increased from 36 hours to 48 hours. You cannot, as management, as administration, ask the pilot to combine his stipulated period of time where he or she has to take rest with the leaves that he or she has applied to take the time off. There have been instances, as has been claimed by the pilots associations who have come out and questioned IndiGo and its work ethics, on how there has been a freeze that has been imposed on pilot hiring, how IndiGo management has been, you know, buying back these leaves that the pilots, or buying back these days off that the pilots receive because they have to take that rest, so that they can work and they can be given an extra compensation for the off days that they work. How this is unethical, this is immoral, and this is playing with the lives of people who are on board the aircraft. How do you see this panning out? Do you think the government will penalize IndiGo, and what should be the right punishment?
You know, the biggest damage that's happened is to IndiGo's image. The image of an airline which was known to be hyper efficient and super affordable. I think both have been, destroyed in this whole exercise. Now, if you want to really pinpoint blame, you really need to look at how the new rules of pilot deployment was being framed and what is safety and how much does this contribute to safety. I think airlines and pilots will have very different views on this. Number three, if you want a low-cost airline in this country, this is standing proof that you can't have just one. You know, you have an exceptionally well-run airline company like Akasa, which actually has not been affected because there's been planning and implementation. So I think giving up rules at this point of time under pressure of a so-called emergency, which IndiGo has ascribed to 5 different things, is an error that the government is doing in terms of diluting things for one company.
Yes.
That's not how governments should function. And most importantly, you really need to ensure that there is more competition in the sector. And if India is to grow at 15% of aviation industry growth, you just can't expect 1 or 2 carriers to do this. You need a 3rd carrier, a 4th carrier, and a 5th carrier of high efficiency. And government needs to encourage more people to come into this sector. And the worst thing is that at a time when we had a very high energy visit by Putin, this disruption has taken him off the screens, and the focus now seems to be on our inability to keep our aviation sector flying high. To my mind, the biggest image damage has happened to India because India was supposed to have a great aviation sector, and the skies were blue and everything was going well. But now we have a global outage, as it were, which is visible to everybody who's traveling, because don't forget that in this season, about 30% of passengers are actually overseas visitors who are using the airline.
Dilip, you rightly mentioned that, this is a strategy, could be a well-planned strategy, because they don't want to follow the rules. There is an extension that has now been given by the DGCA. There's a panel that has been made. They are going to be reviewing what really happened, what is the cause of this massive cancellation that has resulted in complete turmoil, confusion, chaos at airports across the country. But the question,
to top it all,
yeah,
you had the CEO come and give a statement which does not, as somebody who's run communications for multiple airlines over several decades, let me tell you that statement was woefully inadequate, and it just doesn't have the ring of either honesty or foresight.
No, absolutely it did not, because according to the CEO, it was a minor quote-unquote technical glitch. It was also because there were the weather vagaries. It was also because of the winter season that was upon us, therefore these timing changes and therefore the adjustments had to be made and so on and so forth. This is what he came out and said, and he said that within 48 hours, this is all going to be, we will tide over it. And lo and behold, it is 4 days, and now what IndiGo has admitted is that it is going to cut down its flights by 50% up until February 8th, which is more than, actually it's almost 2 months, is they are going to fly at reduced flights. 50% of their airline routes are going to be cut. And who do you think, which airline do you think is going to, then fulfill the number of demands that will obviously rise? Do you think the supply is going to go down? And therefore, today I see the flight tickets are up to 85,000 rupees for a person who's traveling from Delhi to, say, Bengaluru or Delhi to Chennai.
I think the only winner is going to be Vande Bharat, because you cannot create an airline in such short notice, and definitely airlines like Akasa and even Air India have capacity constraints today.
Right, absolutely. What penal action must be taken against IndiGo?
I think, penal action against an airline is not going to get you anywhere. You need to do better planning, and also DGCA and other authorities need to turn the mirror inwards. You had the opportunity to actually monitor whether airlines were being prepared for this kind of exigency. You can't wash your hands off it at the last minute and blame it on the corporate alone. Certainly the corporate should be called to task and held accountable. I'm not saying no for a minute. Certainly other airlines that have done well should be rewarded. But also government needs to understand that it is the job of the regulator to be watching all this and paying more attention to whether companies are capable of conforming to new rules. So
is it about the capability? Is it about the capability of a company to conform to the rules? Because IndiGo is a money minting company, airline. Let's face that. We have been seeing their executives getting up to 100%, even exceeding 100% hikes. And in contrast, you're not hiring. You put a hiring freeze. You are overworking your pilot and overworking your crew. So obviously there is a massive discrepancy, and this discrepancy comes from the management wanting to fill in its coffers while working at skeleton costs, and that has resulted in this complete mayhem that we have witnessed right now. So again the question, it's not about them being capable or incapable of conforming to the rules that the DGCA has laid down, and which are very essential and very important. You cannot be a flight risk. At the end of the day, you are responsible for hundreds and thousands of people who are flying on your aircraft. And so the question is, they deliberately choose not to do it. Isn't 2 years enough to go back and review where are you falling short of staff? If you have to increase a pilot's stipulated time off from 36 hours to 48 hours, there have been other guidelines that have been provided by the DGCA for pilots' leaves and so on and so forth. You cannot take 2 years to decipher, understand, and still not be able to do anything about it.
3 months, at the end of 6 months, as to whether the recruiting is going on. Because don't forget, an airline regulator has a lot to do, and also they do spend a lot of time doing a whole bunch of things. So, I'm saying the company is at fault. That's visible, and we don't need to debate that. But are there others whose jobs should have been, and the government and the ministry should have been, to ensure that they know that India needs airlines that fly, and winter is the season when you have the maximum number of tourist traffic. So what you're doing is you're destroying the image of India, because these tourists will go back with stories of how difficult it is to navigate India.
All right, Dilip Churian, stay on with me. I'm joined right now by Ishika Salaria. She is at the IGI airport in New Delhi. Ishika, what's the state?
Chaos prevails at the Delhi airport, and I'm standing outside the Terminal 1 where departures have been happening, and I'm joined with passengers who are extremely anxious, angry, and all they have to ask is who is accountable, who is responsible for this mess that has been created in India's aviation sector, thanks to IndiGo that promises comfortable flights and the best of passenger experience. I'm joined with Alina. Alina, you here at the Delhi airport. Tell us what happened with you.
So I checked. So I'm traveling here from Delhi to Lucknow. I'm coming here directly from a conference, and I checked the status of the flight multiple times on the website, and it said that it's confirmed. And that's why me and my sister, we came to the airport in the hopes that, okay, maybe our flight has not been cancelled. It's Mumbai or maybe Chennai or Bangalore that has been affected, and maybe not Lucknow. Now I get here, I go to the security, and they tell us that all domestic flights by IndiGo have been cancelled. And now I'm left in a limbo because I don't know what to do. So I wait outside the terminal for some time.
Alina, did you get any message from the airline telling you that your flight is going to be cancelled? Is it going to be rescheduled? Was the status shared with you prior to this?
No status was shared. I come here, I go to several customer addressal points. One is